Yep.
I'm going to call the February 3rd City Commission meeting to order. For those here in the room, we have two executive sessions, and one will be 30 minutes, one will be 15 minutes, and so the regular agenda will start at 5:45, and then we'll walk through the agenda after that. But I'd look for a motion on the first executive session.
Yeah, consider a motion to recess into executive session until 5:31.
You have to read the rest of it.
Recess into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss privileged legal communications from the city's attorney regarding laws and their application to city operations pursuant to KSA 7543-19B2. The justification for the executive session is to keep attorney-client privilege matters confidential at this time. The City Commission will resume its regular meeting in the City Commission room at 5:31 after the executive session is concluded.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Courtney, second by Commissioner Pullian. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Passes. We'll be back at 5:31. Okay, we are back from our first executive session. I have nothing to report, and we'll look for motion on our second executive session.
Motion to recess into executive session for approximately 15 minutes to discuss the possibility of acquiring real property in the city pursuant to the exemption under KSA 754319B6 for the preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property. The justification for the executive session is to keep the possible terms and conditions of the property acquisition confidential at this time. The City Commission will resume its regular meeting in the City Commission room at 5:46 after the executive session is concluded.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Courtney, second by Commissioner Pullian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll be back. We are back from executive session, but we're going to extend the executive session. Motion?
Yeah, motion to extend the executive session for approximately 15 minutes to discuss the possibility of acquiring real property in the city pursuant to the exemption under KSA 754319B6. For the preliminary discussion.
After the rest.
Oh, okay.
Extension.
The thing we
Good.
just talked about. Yeah.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll be back in 15 minutes. Okay, we have returned from executive session. We have nothing to report. And before we start the agenda, we'll have Sherry read the rules of the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. If you would please silence your cell phones. The primary format for accessing the meeting is in person at City Hall. Virtual access cannot be guaranteed due to potential technology issues. When the mayor calls for public comment, please approach the podium to indicate you wish to speak. Virtual participants should use the raise hand function. When prompted, select Join as Panelist. There will be a brief delay as your role changes. Once your name is called, please unmute, turn on your camera, and state your name and zip code before speaking. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The city reserves the right to turn videos off or mute participants. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Sherry. Item B is to approve the agenda. The City Commission reserves the right to amend, supplement, or reorder the agenda during the meeting. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Second, a motion by Vice Mayor Courtney, a second by Commissioner Pulliam. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Item C is a proclamation presentation, and the proclamation is to proclaim the month of February 2026 as Black History Month. I do not believe we have anyone to give a statement, but I would be happy to read the proclamation. Whereas in observance of Black History Month, the City of Lawrence recognizes African Americans for their significant contribution to the shaping of our nation's identity and strengthening our country through high moral values and unyielding commitment to family, community, and service. And whereas during Black History Month, which is recognized by many countries, we celebrate the countless achievements and long-lasting contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, and political development. And whereas the City of Lawrence is committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion as a fundamental characteristic of a healthy, vibrant, and thriving city. The presence and visibility of the Black and African American community continue to enhance the quality of life in the City of Lawrence. And whereas the City of Lawrence recognizes the historical injustices faced by Black and African American people through targeted racial discrimination and violence, which conflicts with our core mission and vision. And whereas the City of Lawrence continues its efforts towards becoming a more equitable and inclusive community in which all residents, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their contributions. And whereas Black History Month calls our nation's attention to the continued need to recognize and combat racism and to build a community that lives up to our core values. And whereas the City of Lawrence is proud to honor the history and contributions of African Americans in our community throughout the state and the nation. Now, therefore, I, Brad Finkel, Mayor of the City of Lawrence, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2026 as Black History Month in the City of Lawrence. And we encourage all of our community to take this opportunity to reflect on past and present achievements of the Black community as demonstrated by overcoming systemic challenges. Let us all work hard to ensure freedom, equity, and inclusion for all. Thank you. Okay, thank you. That brings us to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion and approved by one motion. Members of the governing body may remove items for separate discussion if desired. Members of the public may remove items identified as quasi-judicial for separate discussion if desired. Members of the public will be limited to 3 minutes for comments. Are there any items that a commissioner would like to remove?
I'd like to pull out D7A.
D7A, that's related to the budget amendment. Any other? There are no quasi-judicial items, so I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of D7A.
Motion to approve the consent agenda without D7A, which is a 2026 first quarter budget adjustment CIP proposal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Courtney, seconded by Commissioner Pulliam to approve the consent agenda with the exception of D7A. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 4-0. And that brings us to D7A and Commissioner Pulliam.
Yes. Is our budget director online?
Oh, she's here.
She's here.
Oh, hey. How are you? Thank you. I don't have really a lot of questions. I'd really like to talk about moving forward. I do appreciate the quarterly budget amendment. I recognize we're not going to do anything formal until the end of the year, but I'm really interested in getting monthly, year-to-date budget numbers. How can we make that happen?
Yes, so we have what we call our financial transparency portal, which is on the finance page, which I'm happy to show folks, or we could run a report and share it as part of the city manager's item that he has, or how we do some of our other reports, really.
I've actually got some reports, if you wouldn't mind me submitting. This can be an open conversation, but something that's just fund-based, very quick, revenue expenditure. I don't see any kind of revenue expenditures coming in at all. I'm going to be asking about treasurer's report soon. I've spoken with our finance director, Ms. Matthews, and we're working on putting a work session together at the end of the month to talk about different things financially, maybe provide a little education. I'd like to talk about procurement at the same time, and maybe we can roll some stuff budgetarily into that as well, if you're good with that. I'm hoping for the end of February. But there's quick, easy ways to just provide some year-to-date where we are percentage-wise. That was all I had. Otherwise, I would make a motion to approve D7A.
Well, we need to open it for public comment.
Oh,
real quick.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Ally. Since we pulled the item, we opened it for public comment. Would anyone like to make a public comment on that quarterly adjustment? Anyone online?
No, Mayor.
Okay, now a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve D7A that was removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Napoleon, second by Vice Mayor Courtney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. That brings us to the regular agenda item. And the first regular agenda item is to consider authorizing the city manager to sign letters consenting to the sale of Ham landfill and the Ham material recovery facility. Looks like Mike is our presenter on this.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Mike Lawless, Deputy Director for Municipal Services and Operations, and I'm here tonight to kind of tee this item up. With me tonight, Charlie Sedlock is here from Ham, and Aaliyah Pearson is here from Republic Services. I got that right, I think. And so I don't have a formal presentation. It was more just I'm here to kind of tee it up and listen to your questions. Charlie and Aaliyah are here to answer any questions that either I can't have or you have directly for them.
And I think some folks have questions. I think the only question I got from the public was, obviously this is a consent to basically allow the assignment. Doesn't change our contract in any way.
No, actually, Charlie reached out to me in probably early December and said, hey, this is what's happening, and it doesn't change the agreement that we have. I think the group that's there is going to stay, and maybe Charlie can speak to that better than I can, but that's basically the conversation we had, and at that point, it was just kind of going through the legal procedures that we needed to do to make this item appear tonight for your all's blessing. And anyway, I think if you have specific questions, Charlie and Aaliyah can answer those.
Okay. I think you had maybe some questions?
So absolutely. So we sign this agreement once a year, correct? In the past with Ham, that's what we've been doing.
No, and not to my knowledge. I think the original agreement was from '93, and then there was an amendment or addendum in 2010, and then another addendum in 2019. But I think the agreement itself is just, it's an annual renewal unless there is notice by one party or the other that they don't want it to continue.
And so I've been through a couple acquisitions, and so I guess my question is, we have the rates that are currently there now. Would it behoove us to work with Republic to put in a 3-5-year type scenario so that we lock in those prices so that we don't see a radical change through this acquisition?
Well, I mean, right now, the agreement, and through the amendments, there is an annual 3.5% increase in our landfill tipping fees, and I believe it allows, or it authorizes, like every other year, that we can talk about those increases and do any kind of negotiations we might need for the fees.
Question would be, is there any expectation from MSO and your guys' department there'll be a reduction of employees who are hauling trash based on this acquisition?
For us, no.
No, okay.
No.
And, yeah, I mean, any other questions?
I might have Charlie come up and maybe introduce yourself for those who don't know you, and maybe just talk about the acquisition, and if anything you think, big picture. I know it doesn't directly relate to this contract, but just kind of big picture, what you expect.
Sure. Mayor and Commission, thanks for your time on this matter. Yes, so let me just tell you, myself and our team are going with the transaction. It'll be the same people, same phone numbers, same assets, same contracts, same COLAs that he described, same type of inspection procedures, same folks that we're going to be working with at KDHE. Those, relationships that were started, I hate to say it, 34 years ago are going to continue. And, it's very important for Republic to continue this as well. They want to make sure this is a real success. I will say that as a waste company, they bring some things at scale that I could never bring. I mean, I sat on national committees, we did some amazing things, but I didn't have scale, for certain operational excellence things that they're going to be able to do. So in terms of continually finding markets for recycled material, they're going to be better than we are, and that's very important as markets in China and around the world change. They're still going to have that same focus on safety that we and the city have, and that same focus on quality. So, we're not talking about them bringing in a bunch of new people, changing things, changing, phone numbers, changing protocols. They've seen the contract, and I just want to consent that the contract will continue. But that's basically all I have to say on it.
Appreciate that.
Happy to answer any more questions if you have any.
Yeah, maybe just one more question. And so from Republic's perspective, they're used to doing these 1-year annual re-up type contracts?
Yes.
Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, we'll open it. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Open it up to public comment. Any member of the public like to speak on the consent to the assignment?
Yes, David Baston. I know Mike just asked them a question, and our city guy said that basically this renews every year. If both parties agree, it stays the same. So if Republic, or whatever their name is, doesn't agree with that, they can up the rates. And excuse me, I wasn't prepared to talk about this at all, but I do see that Republic has been accused of class actions of implementing automated rate hikes exceeding over 50%. And then if you're looking out for the city as a whole, they can move rates up for people that don't use the city services and just take their own things out there. So why are we not, since this is a great time for asking for a contract or what have you, why don't you ask that that they only up rates a maximum of a certain percentage over 10 years, 20 years, I mean, something, instead of just going with what the city guy already has in your report to approve. I just ask that you really take that into consideration and don't just jump out there and think everything's okay with this. Thank you.
Any other public comment in the room? How about online? Sherry?
I'm sorry, I said yes. Stephen Watts.
Hi, I wasn't here tonight to talk about this one because I could talk all night about this thing, but the bottom line is, you all know, once it's sold, the rates are going to go up. You got to figure that into your decision making. On the other side of the coin, the guy owns his property. He's got to be able to do what he wants with it. That's the problem when you get into bed with private business and you're in the government and you sign a contract. Irrespective, that being said, can you please have these people fix the Zoom video? I've sent all of you emails if you're getting them while you're watching, because they're fixated on one camera. It was so good, they were actually cooperating and providing an actual visual experience. Being part of the group.
Okay.
Fuck them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Brad.
Okay, any other comments on this item online?
No, Mayor.
Okay, I'll bring it back to us. I guess I would just note that, the way, from my experience, right? I mean, obviously, we have a contract, and we have the right to negotiate the contract, when that time comes. We have to consent, and that's unreasonably withheld, and it's not a time to renegotiate the contract, if that is even going to happen. So I don't think we have a basis. Ham could change it and then sell it, or they could change it. Whatever the contract says is what the contract says. The question here is, do we have any reasonable reason to withhold it? And contract language is not that to me. So, but that's my thoughts. Go ahead.
Any contract that I've ever been a part of that is a recurring service, I try to lock in 3 to 5 years. So, and it has always allowed maybe CPI increase, trying to be fair for inflationary purposes. But I do like to see a 3 to 5. What are our alternatives if we don't? This is hypothetical. I have no intent of not going with this. But what are do we have alternatives?
Mike, do we have alternatives for landfills?
It's almost rhetorical, but I'd love the answer anyway.
Well, obviously, Ham is, the landfill is 6 miles outside of town. Our other options are Shawnee County, Johnson County, or over on the Missouri side. And right now, we transport directly in the trucks to the landfill, and we dump at the landfill. If we had to go to another location, then we would either have to find a service, or we would have to truck from a transfer station, which we don't have, to a landfill that isn't close enough that we can drive to it. So in that sense, our costs for transportation would go considerably higher than we have today.
So we have an alternative, but it's cost prohibitive, would probably be a fairly...
I think the answer is yes. It would be cost prohibitive.
Okay.
Here's a question that, I got while campaigning. I figure now's a good time to ask. Is this in any way having a discussion about privatizing the waste from Lawrence without having the city handle it anymore?
This has, we have not had any discussions about privatizing solid waste in the city. In fact, we're working through our master plan for solid waste that lays out what's our 20-year plan, what's our 30-year plan, and how are we going to serve the community, and are the services that we provide today the same services that we want to or should provide going forward. And I think when we get done with that master plan, there will be some recommendations for the commission to take a look at and decide, are there other areas, food waste, are there other recycling options? Should we expand some of the services that we provide, or should we just do what we've been doing and let somebody else do that? But there, in our discussions, and the whole reason that we did the master plan is not to privatize.
I mean, but to your point, Commissioner Polian, because we're not talking about the agreement, I do like the idea of trying to lock in that 3% for at least 3 to 5 years so that it doesn't change after this acquisition. But if it's not something we can do with this, is there any recompense for doing that other than, I mean, everybody here knows everybody, everybody's looking everybody in the eye, being, honest about what's going on. But just to have something on paper that says 3 years from now, it's still that 3.5%, that it's not something that goes up through the roof.
Well, I think maybe it's a question for Randy, possibly. I mean, I don't want to give my legal advice from up here. The contract is a 3.5% biannually review if it has to be more than that, but it can be terminated anytime within 6 months. But the question here is the provision that says we have to consent to any transfer, the consent of which would not be unreasonably withheld.
Right. I mean, currently, we would be subject to the current agreement until we get within that negotiation window, and then we would negotiate new terms if that was what, obviously both parties would have to agree to those terms, but that's how that would be done.
So,
And I don't want to be facetious, but they could, in theory, they could terminate the agreement with 6 months and then sell it. And then we don't have the right to approve it if we don't have a contract with them. So that's why the unreasonably withheld part of that. So, I mean, we're always going to have to negotiate with somebody. So this is, to me, this is not the time to have that discussion.
I'm perfectly happy agreeing to this. I would just hope that we could negotiate for some longer terms with some sort of inflationary rate included in there when our negotiation opportunity next arises. That's where I'm at with that.
We have that option under the agreement. We can do that. Of course,
Great.
It takes two sides to make an agreement.
Certainly. Great. Thank you.
Mayor, I just have a quick question to Mike. I know, Mike, you had brought up that there are several addendums. Are those addendums on a specific cadence, or are they just as?
Those happened before I was kind of overseeing the solid waste operation. I don't know if Charlie can maybe answer that.
Right.
I was not part of those, so
Okay.
I don't have that answer.
The addendums are not on any regular cadence. It usually arises out of either extraordinary increases in costs that weren't really anticipated. And so that's what drove the one in 2010 or 11. And then there was change with the MRF contract later on, just here again, responding to international markets and different things that we weren't able to anticipate. I think, just to speak to probably two things, I can't speak exactly for Republic, but in the industry, anytime two parties want to get together and say, hey, these are important to us, a 3 to 5 year time frame, the two parties get together, they sit down and say, okay, we can deal with that. We're in essence, a version of a contract that's been going on since 1981, and it's not stayed the same, but it has been very level, all things considered. But that easily can be done, and if that's important to the customer, Republic's going to say, hey, we're going to respond to the customer, because you could, like Mike said, you could go down the road. It's not impossible. You could go to Johnson County Landfill. You could go to Rolling Meadows Landfill in Shawnee. It could happen. And so, as a customer, you guys, can ask for the service you want. Did I completely
You did,
answer
Charlie.
your
Thank
question?
you.
All right.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, any other comments or motions?
Motion, authorize city manager to sign letters consenting to the sale of the Ham landfill and Ham material recovery facility.
So second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Courtney, second by Commissioner Pulliam. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Takes us to regular agenda item 2, which is to conduct a public hearing on the requested industrial revenue bonds for Floret Hills and some related revenue bonds. And Leah is, there she is, Leah's here.
Thank you, Kurt. Okay. Hi. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I'm Leah Roseland, Affordable Housing Administrator. To start off this evening, I will be providing a very high-level overview of the Floret Hill request for IRB incentives and some background on city support for and partnership for this project. I will then turn it over to Colby Krasnowski with Baker Tilly to cover the IRB request and fiscal analysis in more detail. And we will close with a presentation by Rachel Orr with Lanthrop GPM, Floret Hills Council, to provide additional detail about this project. There we go. A primary goal for the Affordable Housing Trust Funds and a consistent priority with the governing body has been to develop public-private partnerships for the development and preservation of affordable housing. In consideration of the request tonight, I am going to cover some history of city support for this project. In June of 2022, the Commission approved a donation of unutilized city land to tenants to homeowners. In 2024, the city and tenants to homeowners entered into formal agreements with Floret Hill for this project through a $1.3 million Affordable Housing Trust Fund award and an agreement for the land to be transferred to Floret Hill. The city also provided an additional $500,000 in Affordable Housing Trust Funds this year in 2026. This public-private partnership with Floret Hill allows the rental units to be developed with low-income housing tax credits, and the project has received 4% LIHTX. This partnership significantly leverages city support for an almost $2 million project. I really can't say enough about how incredible this project is in terms of advancing city and community goals. In my mind, this is an ideal project that can be a model for our community moving forward. It directly advances 3 city strategic plan KPIs in strong welcoming neighborhoods, namely decreasing housing stress, decreasing homelessness, and leveraging the Affordable Housing Trust Funds. But it really it hits KPIs across all city strategic goal areas. The developer has agreed to a 99-year-plus period of affordability. While all other tax credit projects in our community are coming out of affordability in the next 15 to 30 years, this will remain a community asset for future generations through the Community Land Trust. Through the partnership with tenants to homeowners, this development will include both rental and homeownership units, providing affordable housing for a diverse representation of income ranges, our local workforce, families, and elders. It will be the first larger scale development for affordable housing on the west side of Lawrence, creating mixed income communities and enabling the residents to enjoy the many community assets on the west side. The project will include a commercial node, which will bring increased tax revenue to our community. And finally, this project showcases a deep commitment to supporting both public-private partnerships and being smart and strategic stewards of community funds to meet community needs. This project shows that both really are possible, that we do not need to compromise our affordable housing goals to partner with and support private developers. Before turning it over to Colby, as mentioned in the agenda item report, there are several incentives Floret Hill requested that remain outstanding. Tonight, the Commission will consider the request for IRBs. Floret Hill's incentive application also included a request for system development charge fee waivers, which, as recently discussed, our local policy prohibits. The application also requested an additional $1.3 million to build a road connecting Lake Estates Drive and Bob Billings Parkway to the site. Staff advised Floret Hill to submit a CIP application for these two items, which is in process and will be a future decision for the governing body to consider. I will now turn the podium over to Colby to cover the IRB request and fiscal analysis.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, City Commission, for having us. I'm Colby Krzyzanowski with Baker Tilly, the city's financial advisor. And we're going to get into our incentive requests and return analysis, referred to as the fiscal analysis. Just as a brief recap, the project is an underdeveloped vacant land at the southwest corner of Bob Billings Parkway and Highway K10 at about 14.7 acres and 120 units and 170,000 square feet of new affordable housing. There are also some for ownership affordable duplexes on the site and potential for the future commercial pad site. The request, as it was articulated to the city, is for the affordable housing component of the project, and they anticipate operations in early 2027. The sources and uses for the project, we reviewed the developer's application materials and categorized the sources and uses as they were listed in the application. This is the budget for the project less the incentive request. So this is the budget without incentives, without unapproved incentives at current. Now onto the incentive request. I want to make a note here that when we evaluate a project, we evaluate the project with the incentives that were applied. This will include the IRB that's before the commission tonight, as well as the other requests, some of which Leah mentioned in her presentation. We evaluate the project as a whole, not just isolating the incentive to the sales tax exemption or the property tax exemption. We try to take it into full consideration of everything being requested, whether or not those are approved in the future. So to recap, there is 100% 10-year property tax abatement before the governing body now. The estimate as of the application was $1.265 million over the life of the abatement. The next request was for a sales tax exemption on construction materials, commonly referred to as a STECM. The valuation of that incentive in the application was $2.8 million, though STECMs can be hard to evaluate and projects can change. It's likely that either of these incentives the ultimate value of those incentives in present value may differ from what was in the application. Likely a lower value, which would mean less subsidy to the project. There's also an additional request for a variety of different incentives, some of which Leah alluded to, totaling $2.8 million in value to the project. And that is the full scope of the incentives being requested, not necessarily approved. Our analysis is what is commonly referred to as a but-for analysis, and it considers the likelihood that the project would occur without the requested incentives as proposed, which gets back to my points about we evaluate the project as it was applied for with discrete changes only as necessary and within the current market, so the market here in the community. It is not a feasibility study. This study does not opine to whether or not the project will be successful. It shows the financial outputs based on our evaluation of the applicant's assumptions, whether it is financially feasible in the current market. As I mentioned earlier, the actual results across the board will likely vary from our forecasts. We use the best available information to us at the time of evaluation to make our analysis. And my favorite slide, our approach to our analysis. We evaluate what was submitted by the applicant. We evaluate all of the assumptions with the most current information available to us. We evaluate the project revenues for projects such as affordable housing. We do have a lot of federal guidance that we're able to compare the revenues submitted, and we have resources like CoStar and other real estate services that allow us to show what the local market is for similar housing assets in the community, both locally and outside in the larger county area as well. We consider the hypothetical sale. I want to spend a little bit of time here because the hypothetical sale of an asset is really just a measure of valuing the asset at its present value so that we can compare it to the returns that investors are seeking across the country. So it's really a way to standardize the analysis and allow us to benchmark it against a wide variety of investor sentiment. And that shows us where the return actually ends up and whether or not the project would proceed in the current market. Next, we determine the internal rate of return. We use this metric not only because it is the standard nomenclature for investors who are seeking to invest in real estate projects, but it is also agnostic of financing costs, which can change over time with different markets. It allows us to compare a variety of different projects to broad investor sentiment. And then finally, we compare that internal rate of return with and without the incentive to investor expectations to determine whether or not the project would proceed, but for the incentives. I did mention that we evaluate the assumptions in the project, and here's a brief summary of exactly how we approach this. For the site acquisition, there is a combination of city and another nonprofit that combined resources to donate the land to this project. Because we have verifiable information as to the land cost, because of that situation, we would consider that reasonable. For the construction, we do use a construction estimation service to understand exactly what similar projects would be in the current market. And we found that the construction per square foot costs were reasonable based on our analysis. For the site work, in a vacuum, the site work would appear high, but there are fairly extensive geotechnical reports that indicate that there are meaningful site challenges on the site. So considering that, we did determine that the site work was reasonable for this project. As for the developer fee, we are able to look to the KHRC's standards for developer fee and all of the available allowances that they have for the fee. As long as the fee matches that standard, and if there's any deviation, we evaluate whether or not an exemption was applied for. We would determine to be reasonable. In this case, the fee is reasonable. This is really the primary return for the developer. And then soft costs and other expenses, we benchmark against industry standard, not only in the survey and data available to us, but across a variety of different projects that we evaluate. One table we like to show for affordable housing is generally we evaluate affordable housing understanding the revenues are going to be lower than the market. So we like to put together a comparative table that allows us to understand what the foregone revenue per month and per year is for these units. And this is one of the metrics we use to evaluate both the revenues and what motivates the need for incentive in these current projects. Some notes on this table. The vacancy rate is determined according to underwriting standards for affordable housing. We did not make any adjustment to that based on local markets. There's also an annual growth rate of 2%, which is reasonable compared to the local market. We did, however, make some adjustments to the terminal capitalization rate. We found that it was a bit under what was quoted across the investor survey resources we had. So we did make an adjustment to that capitalization rate so it better reflected similar assets in the current market. And what you'll see in the table here is that there is a substantial foregone revenue comparing this affordable housing with federal standards to what would be considered market rate. Next, we take the sum product of our analysis and we compare it to those overall resources. And what we are looking for is, does the return for this project lie within the market range that investors are expecting for similar projects? If it does, it would continue without incentive in the current market. If it does not, then we presume that it would not. And this determines sort of the necessity for the incentive. That is really what we're trying to answer. We can see from the chart here that the range for comparable assets are between 6 and 9%. The project without incentive is at approximately -3%, and the project with incentive is nominally zero at 0.28% with the incentives as they are requested today. The challenges for this project, as we kind of alluded to before, is the low revenues due to the affordable housing. It's low revenues relative to the market and the cost of construction, the elevated site work costs, and the elevated cost of capital. This final slide is really more of a recap that restates some of the goals that Leah outlined for the city's larger goals, and for that reason, I won't get too much into it. That concludes my presentation on the fiscal analysis for this project. And do I allow for any questions?
We might have the last presentation and come back to you if we have questions.
Very good. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time this evening to consider this industrial revenue bond request for the Floret Hill project. Thank you. Thanks, Leah. I think that Leah and Colby did a great job of introducing this and sort of teeing it up for you. I'm going to try to fill in some blanks and give you a little bit more color and information about the project itself and about the incentive request that's up for consideration this evening. My name is Rachel Orr. I'm an attorney with the Lathrop Law Firm in Kansas City. I'm here presenting on behalf of Wheatland Investments Group, who some of you may be familiar with. This will be their fourth affordable housing development in the city of Lawrence that they will own, manage, develop, and property manage going forward. Two of the representatives from the Wheatland team are here with me tonight. I'll introduce them in just a minute in case there are any project-specific questions that require input, and I do not have the answers. So with that, this is the overview and a roadmap of the topics that we're going to cover and the order that we're going to cover them in. So I'll just jump right into an introduction to the Wheatland Investments Group development team. Wheatland is headquartered in Kansas. They have over 35 years of experience in residential and multifamily development. They own, operate over 1,000 affordable units in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. And they're family-owned and operated. Devin Rhodes, sitting over there to my right, and then Kelsey Hare, sitting behind me there, are the two representatives of the developer that are here this evening. Their business model is to develop, own, and manage the projects for the full life cycle, not to develop and then flip them for a higher price and to sell them at some point in time. They build and they stay in them for the life cycle of the project. They put together a wonderful team of partners to help ensure that this is going to be a successful development in the city, including Wallace Architects as the project architect, Cirrus Builders as the general contractor, Cook Flat and Strobel Engineers. The Kansas Development Finance Authority would be the bond issuer for the tax-exempt debt that would have to be issued in connection with the financing of the project. Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, which has allocated both federal and state tax credits, low-income housing tax credits to the project. The City of Lawrence, as Leah mentioned, through the Housing Trust Fund program. And then Hudson Housing Capital, which would be the tax credit investor. And then we'll get into a little bit more details on the tenants to homeowners relationship with this project. Leah mentioned some of it, and so did Colby. So with that, here is the project site. It is at the southeast corner of the intersection of K10 and Bob Billings Parkway. It's on the west side of Lawrence. It's about half a mile to the southwest of Langston Hughes Elementary School. Here's some of the features of the project. Some of this has already been mentioned, but I'll just touch on some of the things that have not been. So there's 121 affordable units. Some of these will be apartment units. Some of them will be townhome units with attached garages. There will be a community building that would be available to tenants and available to management also to provide events for tenant and community resources. There'll be an exercise room, courtyard, picnic area, green spaces, walking paths, and a playground. And then there will be a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. 5% of them will be fully ADA accessible, and all of the ground floor units will incorporate universal design. So the total investment in the city of Lawrence is over $40 million. I wanted to show some of the renderings that have been provided by the project's architect, Wallace Architects. This is one of the apartment buildings that you can see there. As you can see, it is a mix of modern and traditional architecture. It uses low-maintenance building materials that are long-lasting and help with deferred maintenance and capital infusion costs over time. Here's an exterior of the townhomes. As you can see, those attached garages on the lower level there. That's the townhome exterior. And then here is the community building. In addition to it being available to tenants for their use, management will also host community events such as vaccine clinics, financial seminars, first-time homebuyers education, bingo, yoga, arts and crafts, and fraud awareness seminars and other similar types of activities. The next 4 slides are just going to show you some renderings of the interior of the different bedroom sizes. So here's a 1-bedroom floor plan. I'll kind of move through these fairly quickly. There's a 2-bedroom floor plan of the interior bird's eye view, a 3-bedroom, and with the 3rd bedroom being converted to a home office in this instance. And then finally, The townhome unit, which shows on the lower level the garage, the main living spaces on the second story, and then on the third story, the main bedroom and sleeping areas. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of color and insight into what type of a project Wheatland is proposing to develop and what a high-quality project it will be. So we've talked about who's building the project, where it's going to be located, and what it consists of, but now we're going to talk about how it positively will impact the city and its residents. So here in the developer's view are the main value drivers of this particular project. It will increase the stock of affordable housing in the city of Lawrence. The developer expects that about 200 to 250 city residents will reside at the Floret Hill project. There's unquantifiable health and social benefits to the city and its residents due to the proximity of this project to the Lawrence Loop, the Langston Hughes bus line, the bus stop, schools, and parks, and that enhances connectivity and quality of life for those residents. It also brings additional infrastructure and encourages further development on the west side. So I mentioned that Tenants to Homeowners has partnered with Wheatland, and there's sort of several ways that they have partnered. You've already heard that the land donation, the city had about 4 acres, Tenants to Homeowners had about 11 acres. The city donated the adjoining 4 acres, and then they combined it all to make this master plan and to replat the project to have a 1 acre commercial lot, some of the townhome units that 10 to 12 affordable townhome units that will be available for purchase by low-income families will be developed on an adjoining site, and then also the Floret Hill project site. There'll also be a street constructed that is going to be dedicated to the city when it's completed, and that street, as well as the utility infrastructure that Floret Hill is bringing to this project site, will be used by the Tenants to Homeowners for their townhome project, as well as the commercial 1 acre lot that would be developed in the future for providing additional supportive services and community resources. The city's also targeted job growth as part of its strategic plan. The developer and its general contractor estimate the project will create approximately 230 temporary construction jobs, as well as 4 permanent full-time new jobs after development. And these job numbers do not take into consideration the Tenants to Homeowners project or the commercial development project, which would also, create additional temporary and permanent jobs post-development. And I know that Colby already touched on these as well, so I won't go into them too much, but the city spent a significant amount of time and resources developing its strategic plan, and so I think it's important to at least address or touch on some of the main outcomes from that strategic plan that are going to be served by this project. So the strong, welcoming neighborhoods, prosperity and economic security, and connected city are the 3 main outcomes of the city's strategic plan that this project furthers. There are others. These are just the main ones that I wanted to just go through and highlight. In the city, under each of these outcomes, they identified strategies that this project aligns with. I'm going to talk about 4 of those. So one is to identify new and unused residential zoning areas for new housing units within 1/2 mile of schools or libraries. As I mentioned, this is immediately south of Langston Hughes Elementary, slightly west of Corpus Christi Catholic School. So it aligns with that strategy. To increase the affordable housing opportunities by investing in underutilized properties, developing innovative partnerships, and identifying additional funding sources. You've heard from both me and Colby and Leah how this is quite an innovative partnership and how many different groups have come together to make this a successful project for the city and its residents. Ensure equitable access and continue to improve parks, recreation opportunities, open spaces, and trails within the communities. And these residential units, again, will be located within 1/2 mile of city green space, as well as it'll be near Rock Chalk Park. And the 4th and final, I'll touch on the improved multimodal connectivity with an emphasis on pedestrian and bicycle demand and transportation for disadvantaged populations. As we also mentioned, this is adjacent to the Lawrence Loop. It's 1/2 mile from the Bob Billings bus stop. It's right next to K10. And so this enables the residents to utilize some of the city's greatest mobility and transportation assets and contributes directly to the well-being of those disadvantaged populations that the city is wanting to serve. So I've mentioned that there is some necessary public improvements and infrastructure required for this project, but we haven't really talked about what that is. So just really quickly, Leah mentioned that there's going to be a connector road that would connect Lake Estates Drive and Bob Billings Parkway to the site. That connector road would also be used by the Tenants to Homeowners Townhome Project as well as the commercial project. And then in order to connect to city water, the development team is going to have to bore under Bob Billings Parkway, which given the limestone bedrock condition of the site is going to be challenging and significantly increases the development project costs. But both the city water line and the connector road would be utilized by those additional projects as well. There is challenging site topography. A geotechnical report that the developer had prepared shows that there's a shallow limestone bedrock that covers pretty much the entire site. And from the highest point on the site to the lowest point on the site, there's about a 20-foot difference in elevation. So the grading, the hauling away of excess dirt, all of those costs will contribute significantly to the development of this particular site. And then just in general, inflation, labor, and material price increases, that applies to every project, but it does apply to this one as well. I was talking to Devin, and he said from the time they got original indications of interest of how much it was going to cost to construct the project from the GC, that the price of lumber went up $42,000 in a couple of weeks. So it's real, so we put it on there. All right, and Colby did a great job covering the but-for analysis there, and you just heard him present on that. There's one line specifically from the conclusion of the report that I did want to read to the commission. It says that our analysis demonstrates that the requested incentive is necessary for the project to complete the applicant's capital stack and maintain affordability of the units. So the affordability component, I think, is what's important to take away from that, that the suppressed revenues, in addition to the increased site development costs, the increased cost of debt that's going to have to be incurred for this project, and the debt service that would have to be serviced, all sort of lend to that but-for analysis. So with that, I am now going to shift to the specific public-private partnership that is being proposed, which involves the city issuing industrial revenue bonds for the purpose of providing a sales tax exemption in construction materials and real property tax abatement for 10 years. And I do not intend to insult anyone's intelligence, but just as a friendly reminder, IRBs or industrial revenue bonds, they are not a general debt of the city. They don't require the city to pledge any specific revenue source. They don't involve the full faith and credit. They don't impact the city's credit rating. They are merely a statutory mechanism for being able to provide targeted incentives to these development projects. So the proposed bonds would be issued in 2027 with the abatement term beginning in 28 and running through 2037. After that, the project would be fully taxable in 2038. And just really quickly, on the STECM incentive, I think that Baker Tilly's report showed that the value of that incentive is about $2.8 million. That came from the application that the developer made, which included not only Floret Hill, but also the commercial component. And so it's overstated. We estimate that the actual value of that would probably be about $1.5 million. And of that $1.5 million, the project's general contractor has indicated that they expect about 25% of their total material purchases to be made in the city of Lawrence. So the city's share of that $1.5 million incentive is actually about $42,000. So just so we can put some numbers in terms of how that actually impacts the city. I think that's what makes IRBs kind of a unique and a great tool, is that you can utilize them under Kansas state statutes. You can to attract specific projects to the city that you want to see there, but you don't have to bear the full cost of the value of those incentives. It's shared among other municipalities. And with respect to the abatement, as the city is aware, market and assessed valuations can fluctuate wildly from one year to another. And given the affordable nature of this project, it really just can't afford to be subject to those spikes in property taxes. And so this abatement incentive will allow the project to stabilize. It will allow it to pay off a significant amount of its debt in order to, before some of those big, large tax bills start rolling in. So I think that, well, I did have that the The $1.265 million value of the abatement, of that, the city share is about $33,000 a year. So again, that's applying the tax rate and the city's mill levy, and the other, yeah, so it'd be $330,000 over a 10-year period, and the other 75% of the value of that abatement would be shared by the other taxing jurisdictions. So with that, Wheatland reiterates its desire to enter into this public-private partnership with the city for the development of the Floret Hill project. Without these incentives, the project frankly just isn't feasible to undertake, and the issuance of the IRBs will ensure that Wheatland will be able to construct and develop a high-quality, affordable project in the city that can be successfully operated for the city and its residents for years to come. Wheatland has already spent a significant amount of time and resources on this project, and approving this inducement resolution of the city to demonstrate its intent to move forward with these incentives would go a long way for them to be able to continue to invest additional time and resources on making sure that this is a successful development in the city of Lawrence. So thanks for your time and consideration, and we are available for any questions to the extent anybody has any.
Excellent. Thank you. Leah, you have anything to end with or open for questions? Okay, do we have questions for either Leah or Baker Tilly or the applicant?
Yeah, I got a question for Baker Tilly. Colby, there was one of the slides that said with incentives it was 0.28, without incentives it was negative 0.284. Is that specifically for the IRB, or is that for everything discussed?
We consider all incentives applied for so that we can look at the project as a whole.
In this, and I might have been a little confused by this. So the project with tenants, that's separate for the 12 townhomes. That's separate than this project. Is that correct?
The 4 ownership townhomes?
Yep.
I believe that is separate. I would defer to the developer to articulate their application, but yeah.
Okay. I've heard a couple times that there was a challenging site topography. I saw that in the first couple pages. I've heard that a couple times. And I'm not meaning this to be flip. I'm like literally asking this question. Was the project moved to a different location? Was the challenging site topography not known ahead of time?
That might be for
that question intended for the applicant.
Yeah, sure. I guess.
I should not reply to that.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't moved. Until we did the geotechnical on it, we wouldn't know that there's the shallow limestone bedrock. So it was as part of diligence that some of that was discovered.
We might have Leah come answer that, or at least I can join in. The surrounding site was given to tenants to homeowners by R.D. Johnson and gifted to them, and then we agreed to give the piece of land that we had there as well to them. So when you say was it known, I mean it was given to tenants to homeowners before they engaged with Floret Hills to think about building on this site.
And so Leah, a question, and I'm going to ask some tough questions. It's nothing, you're doing a great job. How much money have we given so far for this project from last year's AHAB? Is it 1.3, 1.8?
1.3 in 24 and 500,000 in 26.
Okay. So here's where the thing that just rubs me the wrong way. Let me go to this page. So on page 10 of this thing right here, I want to make sure I read it correctly. The project currently has a significant gap in its sources and uses, and we will be unable to move forward without additional assistance from the city in the form of incentives. Did we know this when we started the project?
I wonder if that would be a question for the developer.
Hey, this is Devin Rhodes with Wheatland Investments, aka Floret Hill. We did not know the amount of the gap when we started the project. The more that we dug into the project, the more that the gap grew. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there continues to be a gap.
And so on page 1, we're talking about $700K in permit blasting. Is that enough to make this viable? Or is it every single one? Is it the 420 for hauling and dumping? Is it the 1.3 for the road construction? Is it the 387 for this IRB? Is it literally everything? Without that, then we can't go forward?
It would be hard to say that it is everything or nothing at this point, but without the IRB, yes. The project would not be able to move forward.
And if I could just clarify, the blasting and the hauling of dirt, that would not be a direct expense that the city would incur. Those numbers represent expenses that the project would incur if the incentive was not received. So in other words, there's no direct fiscal impact to the city for approving those incentives?
If I have a follow-up to that question, to the Vice Mayor's question. Devin, in the projects that you have done in this area, do you typically have a gap as it relates to getting to the finish line of the project, where incentives are needed to kind of close that gap as you're relating, because these are affordable housing projects? That means they're not market, so they're determined at a different rate.
Yeah, so it's funny that you ask. So my mother and father and my sister over there started developing affordable housing 35 years ago. We have done 3 in the city of Lawrence on the east side so far, each of which was a 9% tax credit deal. With a 9% tax credit deal, the amount of equity that you receive from your investors is far greater than a 4% deal.
And when you say 9%, 4%, you're talking about
tax credit.
The tax credits for LIHTC.
Yes.
Okay.
So on a 4% tax credit deal, the amount of equity that you receive into the deal is less than half of the other deals that we've done in this town.
Right.
So therefore, the gap is a lot larger to begin with, and so we're trying to do everything that we can to bridge that gap.
Right.
And I guess I would echo, and this was one of the questions, I mean, maybe when we first started talking about this deal, were you hopeful for 9%, or did, at that point, when we first started talking about this, 9% was much more common than by the time we got to the end of this deal, correct?
Yeah, and I think when we had originally talked to tenants to homeowners in the beginning, it was originally a 9% deal.
Yeah.
But given the size of the site and the number of units that we could be able to provide, a 9% just wasn't feasible. There are limits on how many tax credits you can ask for from KHRC, and this project exceeds those limits. So.
Yeah. And I guess I want to be clear, and like you said, this doesn't include the tenants to homeowners site, and their 10 units, nor 10 duplexes, nor the commercial site, correct? Yeah.
That's correct. And we talked to tenants to homeowners, and they're planning on developing their duplexes completely separate of this project. So.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I will wait till we get to the comments section, but I think there's other possibilities, here. But I will say the other question I had is, and I know Leah's answer to this, the profitability of the project could change if it wasn't a 99-year deal. If we did 15 years of affordability, or 20 years of affordability, or 30 years of affordability, it would change the analysis, correct?
It would, but something that we've committed to the city, and we will stand by, is that this will be permanently affordable.
Right, because it changes it because you're going from an affordability to a market, so different costs of it. I have a question for Colby, if you don't mind, Colby. I know you brought up the part on the IRR, which we do look at that as far as with the but-for. I know that on the slide you showed where typically, I don't want to say typically, where you want the IRR to be on projects. And I know we've seen that IRR as it relates to different types of projects, not so much in the case of affordable housing projects, which we did see with the IRR being, if without the incentive, it was like a negative 2, almost 3% to not even quite a 0.5%, if I remember. So, and I do believe I read in here that, we typically don't see, but-for analysis done on affordable housing projects. But could we make could we make, I don't want to say assumption, but based on correlation, could we state that typically most affordable housing projects, if you're doing a but-for analysis on them, they're not going to reach that threshold? So there's not profitability on it. So people don't go into creating affordable housing to make a profit. This isn't like the private developers. So that IRR is going to be low because the project from the beginning is not it's not a profit-making project.
Given the significant constraints to income, both from a policy side and from the revenues, when we go into evaluating an affordable housing project, we would be surprised to see a very large IRR in or above the normal range of return. Obviously, it would depend project to project, but generally affordable housing, we go in understanding that there is likely a presumption of need even prior to our analysis.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I do.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about the tax, not the tax credits, but 99 years versus 15, you're kind of saying 6 in one, half a dozen another, right? Versus property tax abatement, I'm assuming, or any other incentives. That's for you, Mayor Finkelday, right? You were bringing it up. There's some alternatives here because that's what I am interested in. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify. Colby, may I ask really quick, when we talk about the Kansas Development Finance Authority, they're going to be the debt issuer, correct? We're not issuing debt, or?
That is our understanding of the project. I'll allow the developer to confirm, but our understanding is they are the conduit issuer.
Yeah.
KDFA is issuing, the city is.
Okay. When we talk about $33,000 per year for a 10-year tax abatement, that the property tax is based on valuation. Is there somewhere, I probably missed it in the 230 pages, whatever, but what valuation are we expecting, let's just say right out of the gate, right after completion? We have our COs, what are we expecting for valuation? 33 feels...
Yeah, so Douglas County gave us an as-built valuation, and we based the first year post-construction values off of that.
Based on square footage, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, they did their whole deal and came up with a value and then applied the tax rate, the effective tax rate, and then that was the basis that we used for the 10 years of the abatement.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's the mention of a road. Are we going to get down the line after we approve all of this and we can't, I mean, I don't want this, it's a $1.3 million road. Can we talk more about that? If we can, that was talked about. That's part of the incentive package, maybe not necessarily being asked today to be approved?
That's correct, that the developer is going to be submitting a CIP application to request funds for the development of that road, so that the governing body will have an opportunity to consider that with the CIP.
And what happens if we say no?
To the CIP funds?
Yeah, it does. So to the CIP request, it doesn't make a lot of sense to come down the road. It feels like we're kind of getting dragged, right? Like, oh, we can't finish this. We need you to do this. Oh, so like, does that make a lot of sense? I'm not trying to.
So just for your benefit, I guess, tonight, all that the city is being asked to do is to give an inducement, which basically just says, if the project does move forward, we will issue the bonds. So the city's not actually going to issue the bonds until 2027. So tonight, it's really just a good faith gesture for the development team, so they can go back to the investors and some of the other project participants and say, the city's given this, inducement resolution evidencing their intent to issue these IRBs for the project, and then they could keep spending money and figuring out the next path. But you're not actually obligating yourself to do anything at all tonight. It's really just a goodwill gesture to say, if everything goes the way that we think it's going to, the bonds wouldn't actually be issued until the project is finished. So if that gives you any comfort on what's before you tonight.
It does. I do appreciate that. What kind of incentives have we provided for the other 3 projects in the city? Granted, it was at a 9% tax credit, so there would be significant difference there, but do we happen to know what other incentives we've provided?
Off of the top of my head, I don't recall each specific incentive, but there have been Lawrence Housing Trust funds on 2 of the other 3. And those are the only incentives provided by the city of Lawrence. We did go out and request additional funding from other sources that were not from the city of Lawrence.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions at this time?
I think that is it for now, and please let me know I'm not being obstinate. I just have to get to the bottom of all of this, so thank you for your time.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, we'll open it up for public comment.
John Ems, Lawrence, 66049. Appreciated the conversation. I thought all the questions were right on. I'm not particularly focused on this project per se, but it did spark my interest to go backwards to other projects and look and ask the question, well, how often do we get into a project and then get asked for incentives? Commissioner Polian, I don't know if those were the right words, but you said, gee, we feel like we're kind of being dragged along piecemeal as the projects unfold. And as a taxpayer, that's sort of the way I felt. I mean, regarding the incentives for affordable housing projects, we have tax abatements, sales tax exemptions, fee waivers for water and wastewater installation charges, various other incentives, not all on this one, but just looking backwards on other ones. And they're all for various incentives to compensate developers for unplanned, unforeseen, or underestimated financial costs discovered after approval, but apparently needed to continue construction. Wheatland and Resource Housing Group, which just a few months ago, are 2 examples, but I'm not picking on any particular because you can go back and find it happening over and over. It seems like the city consistently accepts projects that, in retrospect, appear to be underestimated at the point of approval, meaning way back at the beginning, not when we have a construction engineer. And then the developer returns once they get started and they're asking for additional funding or incentives. That underestimation is misleading to the public from the very beginning and results, I think, in ineffective budget anticipation and debt planning anticipation. So we need something better at the front end. The city should look into the estimation and approval process so this cycle is stopped and we have a much better planning to provide to citizens. We, the citizens, need better management of public resources through improved estimation and planning. Thank you.
Hello, David Baston. I don't know. I really like this project and all the things, all the boxes that it checks. I mean, it's like pretty much all of them. And I mean, you can look at this and see that they have a plan. They've got it all laid out. Let's just take the building next door. You guys already approved a tax abatement for them at 95%. The Lawrence School Board just approved the same tax abatement. They ain't even got no plan. There's nothing that was presented on what they're going to do with the building. They're unsure of all this stuff, yet you guys approved all that. So I don't see a problem with this at all. And I think what these fine people are doing is definitely admirable and just awesome for the community and the low income aspect of it for that long. I mean, obviously it's an awesome deal, and I'm totally for it, and hope you guys are too. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Looks like John.
Hey everybody, Patrick Ross, 66049. I just saw industrial revenue, bond, tax abatements, and so I just wanted to say that whatever the proponents for this project are claiming to do 10 years from now, it be codified into law so that we don't make the same mistakes we've made in past issues with tax abatements. Thank you.
Any other comments in the room? How about online?
We do have a few.
Here's hoping Julie's Zoom works tonight.
Julie Jones.
Hi, Julie Jones, 66047. I'm trying to understand a couple of things. If this family is not making any money on these projects, then why have they been doing it for 34 years? My second point is, what is this doing for those of us who are currently struggling with our taxes and with our utilities in the city? And I want to echo what Commissioner Pulliam said about the road. If you're going to build a complex, then you put your own road in. Don't put that on the backs of the taxpayers, because we'll have to be doing the maintenance on it after you get this all in. And then as far as affordability, I can see the 1 bedroom being affordable, but when you jump up to those townhouses and want to charge them $1,600, I think you're creating a mess. And it's while it's affordable for people, it's also creating I'll just leave it at that. It's creating a mess. So I'm just trying to understand, what is this doing for the taxpayers of us who own a home and who are already struggling here in the city? And I'd like to get on that gig of 34 years and we're not making any money, because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have stuck with it for 34 years. I don't like it. The whole thing is just going to keep going up and up on cost. And, what are we going to do once they get started and they've got foundations poured out there and, oh, we need another $500,000. Oh, we need this. Oh, we need that. What are we going to do? I just say no. You build your own road. You set up your own kitty for your expenses and your unforeseen things like the rest of us do for a home. Thank you.
Stephen Watts.
Yeah. I got that thing in the background, sorry. Again, not here to talk about this because it is complex and there's no question we need a housing. It's just that word affordable housing, it's just I'm not going to say it, a buzzword that convinces you guys to give people money. And this one may or may not have merit. I mean, there's some validity to it, but you got to ask yourself, are they going to come back after the existing are they going to come back like the other facilities have that we've given money to that are affordable in order to do the repairs? I'm talking about some projects over in the art district that got buku bucks, from us, the town. Not so much me. I don't have any money. If you don't have any money, you can't pay taxes. And so, hey, that's a good thing about being poor. Yeah. So that's something to think about. Are they going to come back in a few years and say, hey, we need some money to do this? And are the people that move into, quote, affordable, whatever the dollar figure is, going to have respect for the property and take care of it so it doesn't turn into trash city? Hopefully not. Again, I wouldn't want to be in your seat and try to determine do you want to do this, but it can't be fine-tuned. And then, again, it's something that you just want. I can't believe that I see what Ms. Jones is talking about, because usually, anyway, it would be very curious to see what's going to happen once you pass this. And the idea about tax abatements, I've been against tax abatements for 50 years. If people want to be coming to Lawrence, Kansas, because it's so special, why do they need a special deal? And we need to think about that. Seriously, reimagine. Thank you.
That's all the comments, Mayor.
Okay, bring it back to the commission for discussion.
Couple questions.
Oh, questions? Yes?
Questions.
Go ahead.
Leah, can you, someone had brought up the comment in regards to midpoint incentives. Could you explain what projects we have done that have had that are related to affordable housing, and then kind of dovetail into the presentation you gave us a couple of weeks ago as it relates to affordable housing incentives and what that could do for us moving forward?
So just to make clear, projects that we've provided tax incentives for, affordable housing projects that we've provided tax incentives for. Do you want a list of them?
No, I think you don't.
I mean, most recently, Ninedale Lofts, New Hampshire Street Lofts,
Right.
the Peaks of Lawrence. It's using tax abatements and tax exemptions is a very commonly utilized tool for municipalities to provide incentives for affordable housing development. As has been mentioned, the projects often just are not feasible without community support. And then, the commission has recently heard a proposed affordable housing incentive policy that would leverage IRBs, NRAs, RIDs, which we haven't utilized so far, fee waivers. And again, these are incentives that communities across the United States are providing to incentivize affordable housing development because it is not a profitable enterprise for developers. They cannot make it pencil out without community support. Particularly deeply affordable units require community investment, and we're providing, meeting a community need. I hope that I answered your question.
You did. So my follow-up to that is currently what state level, so anything that has been voted on by the legislature, what resources are available to us on the state level to subsidize affordable housing projects in our community?
So there's the RIDs, which is a state level incentive through the Chamber of Commerce, the Department of Commerce, I apologize. And then low-income housing tax credits, which are both available at the state and federal level, administered by KHRC.
Okay. But would you say that probably, as it relates to most affordable housing projects, that lift, or at least that mix of the pie, state, local, and federal, it tends to shift heavily more on the local side to cover those gaps and not so much on the state and federal side?
Yes, depending on the projects, but more and more so, it requires local support, as support at the state and federal level have been reduced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Are we talking amongst ourselves? Sorry.
No,
Yep.
I have some. I'm just taking notes. Sorry. So we talked about affordability. Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We need affordable housing. We know that, right? What's the likelihood of our existing residents going to being able to afford moving into these homes? I mean, we know what our average median income is, household median income. Have we done any kind of research to make sure that we're affecting our residents and we're not just opening it up for those folks that want to move here?
Absolutely. One of the sides that I presented with the Affordable Housing Incentive Policy showed the average incomes for the most common occupations in Lawrence and compared that to what 80% AMI and below, which 80% AMI is and under qualifies for affordable housing. This is housing that supports our local workforce. It will be housing that can house teachers, social workers, police officers, firefighters, the people that create the vibrant community that we have, that keep our community safe, that educate our children. All of these professions on average are 80% or below AMI. So the way that affordable housing projects work and setting rents is that there are percentages of AMI brackets. So for this project, you can see the breakdown in units that will serve 30 to 50% AMI, for example, 50 to 60, 70 to 80. And then there's income averaging so that the rents are set so that the rents will not exceed 30% of household income, which makes it affordable.
Okay. I want to get back to the admin fees that are potentially being requested, which I assume are including impact fees for water and sewer. Your we call it tap fees, impact fees. I think I saw that water, sewer, roads.
Yeah, I think that those were requested as part of this application, but they've been since denied by Jeff Crick.
Okay.
So I'm not aware.
Okay, I thought that was mentioned in the documentation. Whether they've been denied or not, I do have significant concerns about waiving any of the impact fees coming into our water and sewer systems.
Understood.
Yeah, that's real tough. And then we can give affordable housing all day long, but if they can't afford the water and sewer bill, right? And if we're continuing to waive any of those impact fees, that will have an effect on our systems. So I'm just saying that. I don't know if Mr. Crick is denied or not. I just needed that answered. So thank you very much.
I believe they have.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
The city is prohibited from waiving impact fees.
I think
Yeah, that was that issue we had.
And that's because of the bonds?
Yes.
It's got to be because of the bonds.
Yes, because of our bond language.
Because, I mean, I've waived impact fees all day long.
Yes.
And then it's a 100% 10-year tax abatement. I have personally, not necessarily for affordable housing, and I understand you've got a different type of market there, but I like metrics typically tied to my tax abatements that need to be met every year. Is that anything, staff, that we've taken into consideration? Are we going to monitor anything, or are we just going to say 10 years and let it fly?
Is there something specific, Commissioner, what metric you would want for this?
I'm asking if there is one. I'm not sure how it could be tied necessarily to affordable housing, but accountability is pretty big to me as far as us making sure that what we're doing is being accomplished, right? Does that make sense?
How would you quantify the accountability? If that's important to you, then you should have a metric for it. So what would be the metric?
Vacancy.
So vacancy rate percentage?
It's a
so
thought.
They can't, so tease that out.
I mean, meet a vacancy rate on average for the year.
So if they exceed the vacancy rate for a certain moment of time, then what would be the result of that?
They'd have a
be
year.
clawing back.
Well, I'm Kelsey Hare.
Hi.
I've just been the silent one, but part of the vacancy, with us having the low-income housing credits from KHRC, we actually cannot have a unit vacant more than 90 days or we get penalized. So that's already being monitored.
Okay. So then really.
She stole my thunder, so.
It's okay, but we got the thunder. We got the thunder.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
KHRC will hold us to the utmost standards.
Correct.
Any affordable housing development.
Okay.
So that those LIHTC tax credits come with a more scrutiny from the state and federal level.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's great.
Monitored by everyone.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off here, people. We've kind of had these conversations all the time. There's a little bit of a Venn diagram where we can Venn IRB related to commercial projects as it relates to residential projects. It is a little bit of comparing apples to oranges, not necessarily apples to apples. We know for a fact it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Even Stevie Wonder can see it. The fact of the matter is that in our country, in our nation, there is a huge gap as it relates to how we are able to meet the need of subsidizing affordable housing. That is the very essence of it. Whether it's tenants to homeowners, Habitat for Humanity, or even projects like this where we have a family-owned company that is within our state that is doing this work, which is very hard to say because there's not too many developers who are in the business of doing this in our state. So there are tactics that we must use, incentives that we must use to close the gap because we're not getting the money from the federal government, we're not getting it from the state, so it falls on us. And so until there is a movement and a shift for the federal government to start drawing down money for us to be able to utilize to make housing affordable for all, because I'm a little bit tired of the dog whistles around affordable housing, meaning that's for the poor people or the nasty people who don't know how to keep their houses up. I am insulted by that because I am someone who is over 80% AMI. A couple of years ago, I was about in that 60% range, and I am a renter here. So there's nothing here for me to purchase. There is no choice here. We don't have choices in affordable housing. We don't have choices in just housing, period, because we become a community of multifamily, 500 plus units, or single family detached, which messes up the middle, which is the most of the majority of people in this community. So knowing that is the how and the why to why we are here today. So when we have someone that comes in front of us who has a track record of creating and sustaining affordable housing, since we can't say perpetuity, because we don't do perpetuity, but pretty damn close to it, providing an incentive is not about doing others wrong or people being upset because it's not impacting my property tax, because it will impact your property tax more on the positive side than it could possibly on the negative side. And so the thing is that there is no gap. The question around affordable housing goes away if we don't have incentives. We can't do inclusionary zoning here, people. I don't know how many times I got to say it. SB 255, 2015 or 2016, the legislature restricted our ability to mandate private developers or just developers in general who want to build housing in our community from saying you need to make a portion of these affordable. We lost that tool. So the tools that we have available to us are incentives. It is a catalyst. Ooh, we have a catalyst program that we do for commercial that's kind of similar to this. NRAs, Neighborhood Revitalization Act. All of these tools are available to us that we can utilize, whether we ramp up or ramp down, for projects that do the best good for us. So could we do this? Could we tell them, yeah, we'll do this project for you for 75%? Well, that's not going to cut it for them, and then we don't have a project, and now we've lost an opportunity to have to increase the level and the choice of affordable housing units in our community. So the thing is that we do have to be under strict scrutiny, and we are when it relates to incentives, specifically around IRBs for different projects, whether they're commercial or residential. But you do check a lot of boxes on something like this when you say, hey, we have somebody that's wanting to come into our community and do a great good for us. That is going to be, so that the limitation is that, yes, we're not collecting property taxes for 10 years, but the IRR, the return on investment, that is going to be that it's not about people moving in from outside to come in here. It's maintaining people and giving choice to those teachers, paras, firefighters, nurses, all of our quote unquote essential, which everybody's essential, employees and citizens and neighbors in our community. So I don't have an issue with a project like this giving a 100% IRB for 10 years because we know that the return on investment is going to happen as soon as ground is broken. And we have someone that's working with a long-term affordable housing partner in our community. You can't ask for something better than this. We are doing things that communities our size don't even do. We're even doing things that communities bigger than us are not even doing. So we have that piece. I am very leery about saying, yeah, I can agree to this if we do it for 15 years or 20 years or 30 years, because that de-incentivizes affordable housing, which is why we are in the situation we are in right now nationwide. If it's going to be affordable, it needs to be permanently affordable. When we get into these 15-year kind of things, that is a cliff. And if the community, and if that community or municipality is not ready to address that cliff, you're doing more damage to your community than, you're just doing more damage to the community than good. So I caution against saying I can support this if we drop it from 99 years to something less than that. That's getting into murky water that I just don't feel like we need to do. Let's set a precedence. We talked about it in a place for everyone, creating more paths to permanent affordable housing. This gets us there. As far as the road, this was the question I had. I know we said this is not a private road, it's a public road, correct? So adding it to the CIP would be us potentially putting something in the CIP for the city to fund a public road that's providing access. This is not a private road. And I already talked about the dog whistles. I'm tired of it. I'm over it. We have to do better as a community about that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Other comments?
Yeah. When we talk about a public road, though, how many people will it be serving? And would it be general obligation if it's put on this, right? So if I'm going to put a road in the CIP and I'm not going to include it in a benefit district, that's because it's serving the entirety of the community. It's how I've always done assessments. So that road would just be servicing that area. You might actually have a picture of it or maybe not.
We do have a site plan that's been before the Planning Commission on the plat. And yeah, the road will be dedicated to the city once it's completed. So it will be a public road. It will service this entire area, which is going to be 300 people plus a commercial parcel. I assume that in the future it could be also extended further south and serve other areas, but Devin, that might be more your area.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to get too caught up in this road for sure, but.
I think that's fair, but I think shortly put, it would serve the multifamily development that we're talking about today. It would serve the commercial lot in the front, and it would also serve the duplex homes that tenants to homeowners would build.
Okay.
In the near term.
Okay.
Because there is a commercial, sorry to interrupt, there is a commercial component to this project, which means that there are businesses that will be there.
Correct.
So then the public will be utilizing that road to then engage and patron with those individuals.
Are you developing the commercial part of the project?
At this time, we are only focused on the affordable housing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
I think the biggest issue I have in general with any project that comes to us that's been worked on for a while, I really would love to see in the future that our private-public partnerships kind of start with incentives in mind, right? Really doing as much as we can to model out to see where we're expecting instead of kind of reacting I think the community feels like we do get put over a barrel. Here's the deal. If we're going to get put over a barrel, I certainly do appreciate affordable housing would be worth it, right? And I do very much appreciate that you guys are coming in and wanting to do this. Can you give me a brief update how the other 3 projects are doing? Have they been successful?
I'm
I
happy
think
to
Kelsey
have
wants to get in
come.
here. You might.
Kelsey,
Yeah.
Kelsey will take the mic, but I will say that they are all 100% leased with a waiting list.
Great.
And
I love to hear that.
the latest one was just built at the end of last year.
Correct.
Got
Yeah. All 3 of the projects have a continuous wait list.
Okay.
6 months or more. I mean, the list is long.
I think sharing that information as much as we can would be great, so people know.
Leah's going to add something.
Yeah, which is the case with all affordable housing developments in Lawrence. There's a wait list for vouchers, there's a wait list to get into any affordable housing, whether it's rental or homeownership. The demand far exceeds the supply. In addition, if you haven't seen their developments, I really encourage you to, we did a video showcasing one of them, drive by, take a tour. They are beautiful. They provide affordable housing with dignity. And I just can't say enough about yeah, the life-changing opportunity that it's providing residents.
I love it. Yeah, I think really ultimately all I would say is moving forward, let's see if we can have a bigger plan on how we do these things and really sit down to any developer that wants to come in. I get it. We know costs are all over the place, but we've got way smarter people than me to do financial modeling. I'd love to see that if we can. Really try and do that.
May I respond to?
Please.
Just briefly, that's one of the goals of the Affordable Housing Incentive Policy, that as opposed to receiving various applications at different points in the project, our hope is that we can help facilitate a more streamlined process where developers can come to us with a project and we can do that forecasting and provide whatever packages might be appropriate. I hear you.
Yeah, and to add to that, essentially tie a funding source to it maybe annually to say, okay, we can afford to do this and take everything as the entirety of everything that we do. And as far as grilling, you guys, unfortunately, you and the Lawrence Community Shelter were the ones that got in front of us asking for anything. This will be what I do. Please absolutely know this is not any reflection on how I feel about your development and the huge need that this community has and how grateful we are. I am personally, but I will be very consistent in asking these questions. So thank you for your patience.
We appreciate the city of Lawrence.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'll jump in and say a few things. First, the history of this project for me and Floyd Hills, I would say, this started with, like I mentioned earlier, R.D. Johnson wanting to give land to tenants or homeowners, with the city owning land adjacent to it. And we said, okay, we decided in 2022, May of 2022, after talking with tenants or homeowners, is, hey, we'll give our land, our 4.6 acres, to tenants or homeowners so they had a bigger group to work with, a bigger plot of land to work with. Thereafter, tenants or homeowners decided, rightfully so, that they're not in the position to do something this big. They don't build this sort of thing. So they decided, well, they wanted to figure out who can we partner with to make this work. And Floyd Hills is someone we've had success with in this community and has success across many states. And so that, started a project of, here's a piece of land. Now, I'll add two other pieces to that. One is, we also said, oh, by the way, when we give you this land, we want to keep part of it for commercial. And so we have part of it that's designated to commercial. I think I'll circle back to that. That then started a process of what can we do with this piece of land, and why this piece of land, of course, is it was particularly important to the commission at the time, and I think still important to the commission today, that this land is out west, far out west, well, none of our other projects are, and that it's close to Langston Hughes, and that it's close to the Loop. And so when we talk about a piece of property that's hard to develop and expensive to develop, yes, we could walk away from this piece of property and say, hey, let's go develop someplace cheaper. Let's walk away and find a cheaper piece of land. I think we've been committed to this piece of land because of its location and the benefit that provides to this affordable housing project. I'd say that as background. Two, I'd say, the parts of the affordable housing, policy that we're working on that I'm very happy about is the way this whole project lays out, where you can ask one time a year for incentives, and then we give them the incentives, which then allows them to go to LIHTC and ask the one time of the year that the LIHTC projects are given, and then, a year later we get there. So, by the time you put your first request in 2023, by the time you get your LIHTC approval, here we are in 2026. It's, I hear people saying we have to do a better job estimating, but part of is the process that we go through, and it's really hard to say to somebody, well, before you start the project, before we give you any affordable housing, why don't you spend $200,000 on geotech so you can better estimate the project? Well, that's a hard ask before the project gets the approval. It's only when you get those approvals that you say, okay, now I'm willing to spend the money to do the geotech to find the answers on the cost. And so I work with lots of developers otherwise, not necessarily affordable housing ones. That is a very common deal. They don't do the geotech till they go to the bank and ask for a loan, and then they find out the geotech's not more, so they go back to the bank and say, sorry, now that we're moving ahead in the project, now we need more money because this is more expensive. So I understand the concern, but it doesn't really bother me. Now, as for the IRBs, which is what's on the agenda tonight, I certainly support that for this project. I think it's a 10-year tax abatement for permanent affordable housing. The 99 years is something I fully support. We have done other projects that are 15 years, 65%, not using IRBs, using the NRAs and other projects. We often do the 65% when they're 30-year projects. So the 100% for a 99-year project, I support. We're getting a lot more bang for our bucks. Now, I've supported the 65% or even more in some cases, because I think the 30 years is good, but 99 years is better. Now, I will say, so I support this. I support this project. I do think we wanted to go. I will say I'm not excited about $1.3 million in the CIP for a road. I think that's a different pot of money, a different, bonding issue, different from other developments. So, I'll tell the group I'm not excited about that. Though I do think there's some possibilities here. Otherwise, that's one request. I urge, Leah and others. One, we need to talk about this commercial piece of property and how that relates to this. If this is unfeasible, do we still want that to be a commercial property? Do we want to sell that to pay for a road? How do we want to handle that? We also have the tenants to homeowners property, and how do we look at that? Their plan, is to build housing, which is perfect home ownership housing, but they have to be part of this conversation. The road would benefit them as well. Or do we build the road, but we create a benefit district where the commercial property pays into the benefit district? Do we look at some other options there? So I think those options we need to consider. I threw out there earlier that the 99 years is something to look at. I'm not suggesting we go there, but I think my point at that time was there's different options on the table. But I'm very, very supportive of this project, and I think, we want to look at creative ways to make it happen, but I will just say I'm fully going to support the IRBs. Want to look at a lot of options long before I'd say I'd be comfortable with the 1.3 in the CIP. So those are my thoughts. So what's before us tonight, I support.
And I guess just for me, I'm going to be voting against this. I am for the project. But, as was mentioned, we're voting on 386, but we're not really voting on 386. We're voting on $2.8 million. And it just doesn't sit well with me.
Vice Mayor, can you explain that to me, why you think it's 2.8, why it's one and not the other, even though we laid out the different mechanisms?
So, like I said at the beginning, if this project has a significant gap in its sources and being able to move forward without additional assistance, that's 386. It's 1.3 million on the road. That's 420,000 for the hauling, and that's 700 for the blasting. Total, that's 2.8. And so we're voting for 386, but in actuality, we're voting for 2.8 to make all those incentives possible to make this project go forward.
Yeah. I guess what I said is I don't agree with that, because I'm not saying tonight I'm supporting a $1.3 million vote. So my vote tonight does not say that.
We're not committing anything today, correct?
I mean, I can understand what you're saying. I'm not I'm just making sure I'm clear that, to me, I'm not saying I'm supporting that by this vote.
I think as it relates to the property tax abatement, it is the 386. It's not the 2.8. The other things are, as it relates to preparing the site. So I disagree on the premise simply because, one, the hauling and all of that, that's part of the project. That's not the property tax. So the property tax, as assessed using the formula for subsidized housing, is 386. It's not the 1.3, presumably, hypothetically, for the road. It's not for the hauling. It's not for the blasting. It's for the property. So the property, whether or not, even if it was Costco to go there, and they still needed to blast, and they still needed to haul, and Costco wanted the IRB, which they usually don't. They don't do IRB. They don't do tax incentives. It's still for the property. It's not for the things that go as it relates to preparing the property. So I just want to make sure we're not misinforming the public that the gap, quote unquote gap, is related to the things, the processes that need to be done to prepare the site. It is strictly for the property tax. Blasting it doesn't change the value of the property. Hauling the dirt doesn't change the value of the property. So I would, I wouldn't physically fight you for it, but I would verbally fight you on it.
Well, that's good.
I mean, I could physically fight you for it, and probably wouldn't win, but I would give you a good
We talked about no angry words in our meeting.
No, that's not angry. Those are facts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, other comments or motions?
Oh, what are we doing? I move to adopt resolution of intent number 7646 and authorize an industrial revenue bond IRB property tax abatement of 100% over 10 years and an IRB sales tax exemption on project construction materials as it relates to the Floret Hill Affordable Housing Development Project.
To a second? I will second it.
And then for clarification, just really quick, again, we're giving a nod that we will do the IRB for sales tax exemption and 100% property tax abatement, but we're not issuing bonds or do anything of that nature. This is not binding. If for some reason, not that I think it will, or are we granting these abatements right now?
Nothing that we're bonded to.
It's the intent to issue them in the future.
Yes.
So will it come back?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
The adoption to resolution of intent.
Yep.
We still got some more processing.
We give these things a lot. Yes.
Okay.
They'll come
Practice
back.
makes perfect.
Okay, there's a motion and a motion by Commissioner Sellos, a second by myself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay. Passes 3-1. Thank you, everyone, on that.
Thank you,
Appreciate
you
it.
guys, for hanging in there.
Yes. Okay, brings us to commission items and future agenda items. Are there any commission items? And I have just a couple real quick. First, it's been a little bit since our last meeting. I wanted to thank MSO and our crews that cleared the roads, and also to our sanitation crews and many others, including our firefighters and police, who kept working through the real cold weather and through that cold spell. And then also, of course, that includes our homeless outreach team and all the work at the shelter to work through that. And as we talked about a couple weeks ago, it maybe some people don't appreciate it as much as others, but again, we got through that section with no deaths in the community, which is, very important to me in our process. Second, I would say, just want to congratulate Alex Redcorn as being the new interim president of Haskell. We got to meet him on a trip with the Chamber of Commerce, Haskell, KU, to go to and lobby in D.C. several years ago, and he is a great advocate for Haskell. At the time, he was working for KU, and I think he's going to do great work there. So, again, I've appreciated many of the presidents of Haskell, but this, I think, is the first time in the 25 years I've been here that except when Dan Wildcat was mentioned, was put as the interim, that we've had, a local person who's not part of Haskell, and I guess Dan is part of Haskell, that, that's been appointed to this position. So I think he's going to do good things there. I look forward to that. And then I want to give a quick update on the city manager search for the public and for the commissioners. Our consultant was in town last week and met with quite a few folks, staff, commissioners, so forth, and got a feel for what we were looking for in the position and to understand the position. The next step is for him to produce a kind of a brochure, an employment brochure advertising the job to share with potential clients. He expects that to take 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll get that finalized, at which point we'll be looking to put that out, as well as, of course, advertising the position. So we're hoping within 3 weeks from now we'll have the position advertised. Our goal at the moment, and we'll later actually get to look at and approve the the step-by-step part of this, but for the commission's knowledge and the public's knowledge, we would really like to have the finalists in town the last week of May or the first week of June at the latest, so we can get them done before the World Cup. And it might be a little earlier than that, but that's our kind of our latest point in time. But again, we'll see a schedule and we can talk about that as a group. But that's one of our goals, is to be sure we are at the point, hopefully by the last week of May at the latest, for the hiring of the finalists. Again, that could be subject to change. We'll get to see the whole thing, but I just wanted to give that update of kind of a timeline. In between there, we'll have the advertisements, we'll have semifinalists, we'll have finalists, and then we'll go from there. So those. I do have one future agenda item I want to talk about, but I'll stick with commission items. Are there any other commission items?
I've got some that could be considered future agenda items. They're kind of requests. You want me to wait?
No, you can go,
Okay.
put them together, that's fine. I don't want to make you
Throw it all
think.
together. I'm sure everyone's excited for me to stop talking. All right. Couple of council or commission meetings ago, we had a 4-1 vote on that was brought to us. It was brought to us to bring Watson Park into the historical registry, the Lawrence Historical Registry. We've got the Historic Resources Commission, and at that it was a 4-1 vote against moving forward with that project, not necessarily quashing it all together, but certainly putting a stay on it for a bit. I see that we are engaging the public to find out how they feel about it. Certainly, we know that they don't require our authority to move forward on anything like this as far as public engagement, and I always welcome public engagement. But I think what I'd like to see as soon as possible is I'd like an agenda item so action can be taken on the Historic Resource Commission specific to the environs. I'd like basic information in general, and I would like that at least the advisory board chair be present at that meeting. It was laid out to me, and it was probably a good reminder that these advisory boards really are the onus of the commission. So we really need to start talking directly to these advisory boards as much as we can. I'd like to hear from the advisory board, and then I would like to just talk about the Historic Resources Commission in general, and take a look at any legislative changes we may be interested in making. Next on the list, I believe it is intended to put the IBC 2024 in front of the commission in April for review, and then we're going to put it out for public comment. I assume there's going to be a 90-day public comment for the IBC 2024. I would like it can either be report style or maybe have Mr. Crick come here and talk about how we've engaged the community thus far, what kind of information we've been gathering. I also want to know if we are also going to be including the International Energy Conservation Code along with that, which I'm guessing is why everyone's probably a little more panicked. But just an update, however we think. I'd like to do that before we go and look at it in April. Again, 5 minutes, report, status update, whatever that may be. It mentioned that at the end of February, we're talking about having the finance department providing maybe a finance work session that will probably give some education to everybody. I would like to be added to that work session items about procurement, specific as it relates to using local vendors. If we have any policy, I'd like to see what that is. If we don't, I'd like to take into consideration maybe giving some direction at that work session. Along those lines with procurement, I'd like an update again on where we are with the RFP for municipal advisory services. Hopefully that's going to be happening pretty soon. I'm sure we're going to be wanting to issue debt at some point. I think, April? And then I've received a lot of phone calls. I think we've got some folks that want to chat with us about maybe our unhoused folks and some camping that's going on. We've gotten frustration on both sides. I'm wondering if we can put together a work session where we bring the Lawrence Community Shelter in, we bring in the HRC, maybe Bert Nash even. I'd love to see everybody that provides the services that we believe folks are getting, and I'd love to get an update on that. Certainly, if that's not feasible, I'd love to know why. But I'm interested in having everybody in the same room to see how we're doing, because I'm getting a lot of emails, phone calls, etc. So I just kind of want to get that started, because I get bits and pieces, and I'd like everyone in the same room so we can hear how things are going. Other than that, I promise you, I am done. Thank you.
Let's circle back on a couple of those things real quick. Make sure we have at least 3 of us ready to move forward on that. Start on the HOC, I think was your first one. I'm certainly interested in that conversation. When we did did some work on the rest of the committees, we didn't really touch HOC at that time. And one of the goals of our previous committee work was to make sure they were aligned with the committee, the council direction, and I guess this was kind of a highlight of that. The HOC doesn't always in that way, and I want to look at that. So interested in talking about that and bringing that forward. Anyone else interested in that conversation?
Yes, I am too. Absolutely.
Okay, that's 3 at least. I don't know if you want to jump on that, if you're interested in that conversation or not.
I just want to, is this a work session, or are we?
Agenda.
So agenda item to
give direction.
give direction to the scope of what the HRC.
HOC, yep.
Okay, I just need some clarifying language there before I say yay or nay.
Okay.
So I'm a yay.
A yay. Okay. I know that the Board of Appeals, the Building Code Board of Appeals, has started looking at it. I had not heard something about an April date. So tell me.
I've been told by a few people that staff was hoping to present in April to get the public comment period and then final adoption in July.
Okay.
Did I pluck that out of my?
So you heard from someone that staff told them that, or you heard from staff that they plan on doing it?
I thought I heard from Mr. Crick a few months ago during orientation that July was his intent for adoption. And then somebody else confirmed that was not staff, April being the beginning of the public comment date.
Well, so I guess what you're asking, I guess, and I'm interested now that you've brought it up, which is maybe a city manager's report on what the schedule is?
Basically what the schedule is, and maybe outside of the public comment, have we gone and talked to anybody? Just kind of a review of what's been done thus far. Less questions when you finally do bring it to us, that's all. It's not meant to be arduous in any capacity.
Okay, so not an agenda item there, more of just an update.
It doesn't, absolutely not. Not even, that's why I said it could be a report, just something prior to when they're presenting.
An update on that part.
Happy to.
Happy to do that. I assume we'll all. Then, of course, the RFQ is on the future agenda. I assume that's still in process, and you want an update on that?
I would love an update on that.
Okay.
But I'm happy to reach out to Finance Director Matthews.
Okay, then the last one on the homeless, on that one, are you looking for a work session?
Right.
I would like a work session, yes.
Okay.
With not just, we've got the HRT, we've got a group of folks internally that I was told are working 16 hours a day right now, 7 days a week. There's a lot going on there. I think a lot of effort is being put forth by many organizations. I'd love to know what that effort is, see if there's any overlap, and then ultimately, are we making a difference in people's lives? I believe we are, but again, I've received a lot of emails, a few phone calls, and a lot. By no means do I mean like hundreds, like 10, which sometimes feels like more than usual.
Okay.
So I don't know if something's happened. It's been very cold. I know our HRT team has been trying to get folks to services. I hear that there's some frustration of the folks that aren't inside. So I really want to get a good idea of what's going on with it. I include LMH. What are our responses? What are we doing? I don't know what that structure needs to look like, but I would like everybody to have a seat at the table so we can hear from everybody at the same time how things are going. How that looks or what we need to do with that, I don't know, but.
Got to run the lead center.
Can we perhaps wrap that into a, I don't know, it sounds more like a study session than it does a work session, but I guess those are synonymous. But maybe perhaps tie that into an update on the PIC count once we get that and kind of make that part of a study session. I guess I'm trying to, I understand what you're trying to, you want a presentation of the coordination of services as it relates to our unhoused community.
Yes, ma'am.
Which falls up under a place for everyone.
Yes.
So you're just wanting to hear what different partners are doing that are part of the continuum of care?
Yes, for sure. And when we talk about wraparound services, who would that include? Obviously, Douglas County would be a part of this as well. I really want to hear,
because I'm trying to figure out, like, and not, don't take my words wrong. I just, not that we don't need a refresher, because the learning curve is a little bit different for everybody. Some of us know more about this than others do, and being new to the commission, you've not maybe versed yourself in the coordinated care service that relates to this particular piece. So I'm just trying to figure out how best, what would be the takeaway other than us hearing from a bunch of people. Like, what part of this could be like a high-level overview of the coordinated functions of those stakeholders as it relates to, as opposed to, is there something specific you're wanting to know? Because I'm trying to listen for the specifics of what this presentation.
I think you kind of nailed it when you said bring it to the PIC count. I really want to know a status update on how things are going right now.
Well, the PIC count was just done a couple of days ago, so typically we get that report maybe around April,
I think.
I'll just say Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition they own that data, so they usually don't like to report that out until July.
July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
when HUD confirms it, I should say.
You're right.
Well, essentially, I'm hearing from the unhoused folks that they're not able to get the services they need. I'm hearing from folks internally at other organizations that they're not able to provide the things that they need, but I'm hearing from us that we're really, of course, I believe everybody's working hard. I'm not questioning that. But I'm hearing from us that we internally, that we've made extensive progress. I'm getting too many conflicting views right now, so I would love to somehow get a summary of how things are going right now. And again, it's based on the fact that I have gotten so many calls, frustrated about fires, frustrated about folks on people's property, frustrated about folks who are frustrated with us. I mean, so how about a status update that includes everybody that provides services?
Well, I guess I'll jump in and say that's a pretty big ask.
It's a
when
huge
you're
ask.
asking people like LMH or Bert Nash, who we don't fund, to come here and give us an update. So I'm not sure coming to a commission meeting on a Tuesday night is the way to get the information you're talking about. If you want an update from the people we fund, I think, that's a little easier ask. That's a little easier ask than.
And I certainly appreciate Commissioner Sellers' question, like, how do we format this? But this is a community challenge, right? and a lot of people are putting forth a lot of energy, and I want to know to what end. So what does that look like? How do I just continue to get piecemeals from people who are doing the work. Again, thank you for doing the work. But then I get information from folks that are supposed to be getting the services that they're not getting what they need either. So what is the answer for me to find out what piece of that we own and if we need to improve it?
Well, I agree. I mean, that I think is a different question than asking partners that we don't own to have them come in and tell us about what they're doing.
Could we
for some reason?
Them though? Could we?
Yeah.
It's not mandatory. We can't force anybody.
Suggest, and again, I suggest this as a fellow cohort on this dais, of perhaps giving the work back, and maybe it doesn't sound like we have consensus on the what, and so maybe until we can find a better way of figuring out the what, maybe some of this work kind of belongs in your purview to maybe reach out to some of the partners.
Sure, I'm happy to
understand kind of who they are and what role they play, so then you're able to map out this ecosystem. So then maybe that could help with some of help you kind of nail or pinpoint exactly what a conversation should look like. Because I mean, I can think in my head what different things we could offer and provide, whether that's, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into this right now, and that's something we can talk about offline. But I think maybe a little bit of this could, if there's maybe just a little bit of maybe groundwork that you do to understand the different partners, who they are, how they fit into the consortium of care, and then take that approach and then come back and maybe if you say, oh, I see a gap here as it relates to our funding on this project or outcomes as I read this report, then maybe come to that. Because I don't hear a consensus, and I don't, there's nothing that I've heard so far that I would vote on to move forward on putting on, whether it's a work session, a study session, or even an agenda item, because I believe maybe a little bit of this work kind of needs to fall back in your lap to make some relationships and build some connections with some of these partners so that you understand it, and then maybe you can understand it from a more complete stand, and then come back with something.
Well, didn't we already vote on a work session we had the one with the shelter, but we had the one that was in the future with Misty, where she was going to give a presentation.
So then we would just wait.
So I understand.
I guess well, I mean, if we already have a work session, then I'm confused about what you're asking for tonight. I already have something in the works.
But I don't want to I understand the partners, and I understand what the partners do, right, or are supposed to do. I guess I'll go and talk to all the leads. I mean, I've talked to all the leads separately.
Talked with Misty?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I've talked to Bert Nash. I've talked to TRC. I just had a meeting with Brett with HRC. I mean, I've talked to everybody. Mm-hmm. My concern is all of these phone calls that I'm getting that in order for me to help people, I have to go to, it's easier always. I think Mr. Owens even recommended, hey, if you're getting different stories, let's get everybody in the same room. So
are you getting everyone in the same room?
I was asking to see if you guys had interest in it.
I mean, I think I kind of understand the system maybe a little bit more than you do. So that's why I said maybe it starts with, because what I'm proposing to you is not what I'm proposing to you, because I wouldn't do it myself because I've done it. So maybe this isn't the arena for what you're asking for. Maybe a lot of that is having those conversations with those entities to understand. Because I mean, a lot of that is anecdotal, that I don't know that this is the forum for which to get the answers to those anecdotal questions. Maybe it's having Brett and James in the room and having those conversations, or having Misty, Brett, James in the room, or adding a Bert Nash or Matthew that does it, which I think Matthew still does it or not. I just don't, I'm not, we're getting a little bit into outside of scope with no endpoint?
Okay, well, we are spending between HRT and the Lawrence Community Shelter, what, $4.5 million? Just in those two?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah.
$4.5 million, $5 million? It's a lot of money. I'd like to know if it's being effective, because I'm hearing it's not.
Well, I think that is a conversation that's different than saying, bringing in our other partners, other non-people that we're not paying for, and say, I'm putting words in your mouth, you didn't say this. LMH, are you being effective? Or Bert Nash, are you being effective?
Well,
I think having an update from our folks, I mean, I think we've done that once, and I think we can do it again. I think we can continue to ask those questions. That's the only thing I'm saying. I mean, we have groups of partners who meet, once a week, not at our level, but at staff level. If there's that kind of question, when they meet, I mean, I've went to them a long time ago when they have their meetings, when they're talking about the work they're doing, they get the whole group of people together. That's a different type of meeting than bringing them to a city commission meeting on a Tuesday night.
Sure.
So that's the only thing I'm saying.
No, I hear you. I hear you both. I'll tell you what. I'll start. I think we're going to hear from quite a few folks anyway, so maybe we'll get some better ideas. Yeah. But at this point, I will let it lie.
Well,
I'll bring back anything else, you guys, if I have any specific requests.
Brandon, just real quick for point of information and clarity, is the COC meets, and is there an additional group outside of the COC that meets?
I mean, there's all sorts of meetings.
I know. Just
but there's a coordinated entry system meeting where the kind of the case management piece plays out, and where all of those different agencies and their maybe not their executive leads, but the people who actually help support folks who are trying to recover from homelessness or access services, they will sort of case conference those and try to make sure that people are not falling through the cracks and getting connected to the resources that they need.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think anybody's going to show up here and say that they've got enough. So, Commissioner Pullian, I think, yes, everybody is correct. What you're expressing, what you're hearing, is the challenge that we face every day. So, that's what we're trying to solve for.
Okay.
Okay. Any?
Can I go back for just a point of clarity? Did I hear in your comments, Commissioner Pullian, we are having a work study session on finances in the end of the?
I might just jump in, and yes, a few weeks ago, the commission did request a update on A Place for Everyone. So, but that is different, I think, than what I'm hearing from Commissioner Pullian this evening.
They're two different things.
Well, I wasn't even talking about that. I done moved on. I was going back to the question, because you had mentioned in your comments that staff was going to bring a work session in regards to financial practices, and I don't see that on here or in the TBD. So did I miss that?
No, and I was going to ask for follow-up because the mayor had asked about the RFQ, but there was a request for a finance work session. Not previously that I'm aware of, but tonight there was.
Well, and we had talked about it. I don't know if I think Mayor Finkelday, I mentioned that, and I've mentioned it to Craig. Maybe we haven't gotten it on the agenda. By all means, if we don't have a majority that's interested in that, then we can certainly forego it.
No, I think we're interested in having that. I think we've talked about that conversation.
Yeah, that's just the finance.
Yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do.
Right, you brought it up when you pulled up the consent agenda item, but that didn't necessarily, we didn't agree upon having something. But that's what you're wanting us to agree upon, having a finance work session on the items that you stated, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make, because you presented it as if we were, but I think what you were asking for a work session to be had, because you stated that it was going to be at the end of this month, but we didn't agree upon that.
I think I had spoken with the mayor and vice mayor about adding it, but we did not put it out here. So let's do that right now.
I don't know that we had talked about a date. I knew you were talking with staff about that.
I can't. How about we just do this? Do we have 3 votes to have a work session regarding financial elements of the city?
Yes.
At the end of the month, or when?
Not at the end of the month. But I mean, we can put it to have this. I mean, I think that is a very short timeline. I mean, I'm not opposed to having it. I'm just not at the end of the month.
Craig, have you been?
If I may, so not trying to stick my nose in anything here, but there are a number of things that are going to come forward about financial conditions. There are things that we would want to bring to you. As our 2 new commissioners have joined us with lots of questions, it's prompted you to want to see more things, and we're anxious to do that. Some of these things we're going to bring to you whether you ask for them or not. Okay? Some of these things are just, we want to continue to get better, and we're going to bring you some policy changes, whether they're on planning and development, or if they're on finances, or if they're on personnel. So we will be doing this. Some of these things were in the hopper, and some of these things came out of conversation through your orientation, and you have ideas, and so we want to bring those forward, and we're trying to be responsive. So yes, we're going to bring something forward. You don't need to necessarily vote to say, hey, can the finance stuff come forward? We're going to be doing that. There are some ideas I think that you've shared that are additive and that we'd like to have considered, and I think that's maybe what you were trying to get at. But I might be wrong.
I want to talk, yes, and then I guess I want to find out how we are choosing our vendors. Like a lot of local vendors are not included in like our engineering services, our architecture services, whatever. I'm not questioning why that's not occurring. I'd like to know, do we have a policy in place that gives I've given my local vendors 5% if I'm able to support them in town. I'm not saying one way or the other. That's obviously a commission choice, but I would like to know about our procurement policy as it pertains to that. I'd like to know why we're not getting a treasurer's report every month. I'd like to see a revenue and expenditure report for the governmental funds and a revenue and expense report for our proprietary funds every month. Things that we need to be doing to be able to review without fail how we are doing. And I need to tie it to cash. So however we want to do that is certainly up to, whatever we feel. But those are the things that I would like, and I thought it was a great opportunity to potentially bring it out, especially our procurement policy.
Yeah.
So however we want to do that.
Right. And my comment is to scheduling and capacity. So yes, there are some things that are already kind of move in that direction. Some of the things you're talking about are creating new things which we're not resistant to. There's no resistance here at all.
Sure.
It's just trying to hit the mark of the new commission and to try and provide those things out there. So it is just about how do we rapidly build these things to present to you, to all of you, and to the community that are new and outside of what we're doing our level best to keep up with day to day in the way that we've been doing it. So happy to do some of those things, but when you say by the end of February or the end of the month, some of these depends on what it is. If it's just a form that's easy to print off, I think Allie kind of alluded to, yes, happy to do that, create a report that's already available, or the information is available, put it in a format that's useful to the new commission. We are happy to do that. It's just trying to get the right format and understand what those things are. There's lots of rules and processes and procedures which we're happy to explain or present and modify at your will. No resistance here. It's just how much capacity there is to get it ready for to get an agenda packet, to have all the rigor of review and to make sure that it's right and prepared. And we're giving you hundreds and hundreds of pages already. It's somebody's writing all of those pages. So we'd like to be prepared for that.
So for a little bit of clarity, I'm not actually asking you to produce the reports necessary that I will be asking future perpetuity. I'm asking about having a discussion about with the other commissioners. Here are some things that I believe we need financially, kind of showing them examples. It does not have to be, again, arduous. But I don't need you to produce a treasurer's report by the end of February. I don't need revenue and expense / revenue and expenditure reports by the end of February. I just want us to get in that direction. Yeah. That was it. I don't believe you're resisting. I too am learning how things are going. However, I will mention that these reports that we get, most cities get. So I'm definitely not asking for anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah. And I guess my 2 cents is, if you're asking for something and they're willing to produce it, I don't need to have a meeting for you to ask us to approve, to tell them to produce something they're already agreeing to produce. So I guess...
They're not producing it, though.
Well, I know, but you
that's what I'm saying. They're not producing it, and I don't want to give them... I'm saying this is what I think they should do based on my financial expertise, but there's 4 other people here. And just to get something on the agenda, obviously, we want to have significant... I don't want to spend staff time doing something that you guys have no interest in. I don't dictate these things, right?
No, I agree.
We're a group. That is why I was bringing it. So if you guys are comfortable with me just saying, hey, let's talk about how we're going to bring financials in the future, by all means, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be here in a month going...
Right. This is the tip of the iceberg in the relationship we have between our governing body and staff and the community. This meeting is it's a small piece of everything that goes on, and I don't think everybody completely understands that. So I'll just say, when any of the 5 of you interact with me, which we do weekly, when you make suggestions and have ideas, most of the time those are very quickly integrated into our operations, because you're our board of directors, and we want you to have really high quality information so that you can lead this community. So that is iterative and regular and ongoing. When a new commissioner comes in, that it has a big uptick usually, and sometimes more, sometimes less, and then we can usually try to make those adaptations. Like you, I've worked in many communities, it's done many different ways, and we can certainly satisfy what your needs are as 5 elected leaders. So that's iterative, that's happening. So you don't always have to direct specifically everything that you want or get consensus amongst you to get everything you want. We're trying to be responsive to that.
I know you guys are. I definitely know you guys are, and I just thought we could have a work session on some of the things, but no worries. No worries. We're good. Okay. I'm good. Let's move on.
Okay. Last thing on my future agenda, speaking of other things to add, I know that the farmers market has asked and sent a letter asking to be on an agenda, and I was hoping we could get them on an agenda. I think the request is for them to present to us, not for us. And for us, as I understand it, and Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, the farmers market met with Parks and Rec staff, and Parks and Rec staff said, before we do a lot more work, we want to have some direction from the city commission directing us to work with them. I think that's what we're at. They'll do the presentation, we'll say yay or nay, and the outcome would be, yes, we want Parks and Rec to continue to look at this, or no, we don't want you to look at this.
I think they want to expose what they've learned in their public engagement process.
Yeah. And so I guess I'd like to get that on a future agenda to let them do that, and then we can go from there. Do we have others that want to hear that?
Yes.
And give direction? Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay. And
I guess I can go. I mean, unless
go ahead.
So I'll make it quick. So I met with Chip at the DCCF, which is the place that holds basically the money for the Lawrence
Community Foundation.
Yeah, the Community Foundation. So that they do the thing for the Library Friends group. Met with him, talked about, hey, as this group comes together, if I can give them some guidance, he'd be able to do some board training and stuff like that, which was fantastic. One thing. And I don't know if this has to be a commission item, but it's something I've heard from a bunch of different people is about the IBC 2024, like the design code, whatever that is.
That's what she was
talking about.
That's what she was talking about.
That's what you're talking about.
Getting the update on.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, never mind then.
Same thing.
The other thing was I went to the library master plan discussion. It was great. Like they had a really good presentation. They had this saying, it was library as a platform. Mm-hmm. And the whole time while I was sitting there, I was thinking like rec centers as a platform, like what we can do to use that type of model. Because I've been going to the East Lawrence Rec Center now and just working there from working from home from there remotely. Play a thing of pool every now and then. And so it was just really interesting thinking about how they're thinking about the library and something to, what can we think about this rec center space in a similar vein. And then the other thing is I'm, looking forward to the retreat. I mean, I think a lot of us have talked either informally or we met before we were sworn in, and I got a list of 5 items to hopefully discuss with everybody. We probably won't see eye to eye on all of it, but hopefully we'll find a couple and, figure out how we can go forward to best help the community.
Always looking forward to the retreat. Should be fun. Okay, any other commission items? We got city manager's report. And sometimes there's not much on it, but we have something on it tonight.
Right. Per your request, we did bring forward some information about the senior swim session that's been impacted lately. Happy to answer any questions. I think Lindsay's here to respond to any questions you might have. Also, we had been asked about right-of-way program management fees. We're just showing you the update on those fees. It's really to get a much different level of cost recovery that we probably are owed in those, so we wanted to update that. And we will have other discussions about some other things that have to do with our fiber program in the near future.
Yeah, and I don't know if I said this afternoon, but if we can put franchise fees on there too, I'd be interested to know what that looks like.
Okay, thank you. And then the ex parte report.
Okay. Questions for the city manager on the city manager's report?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll go with the swimming. So yeah, where do we start with this? Mm-hmm. So it says in here that we've generated $600 from the swimming in January. And so I'm just confused about those numbers because it's $7 for a daily rate. It's $55 for the aquatics punch cards. Do we have a breakdown of what that punch card to individual signups are?
Good evening. I can provide a more detailed budget breakdown because I know some extra questions have come in after we submitted the report. So initially we wanted to provide, the question I think originally was an estimate of what the attendance was looking like. And so we only had 3 weeks to put that information together before we needed to submit it for this week's agenda. And so we were able to do some comparisons, and that $600 was just a rough estimate that I wanted to provide to show what we felt we were getting with a breakdown of the daily users, and some were punch cards, and so then you take that. So a punch card at $55 gives you 10 passes, 10 punches. And so that was a rough estimate, but I'm happy to provide a more detailed budget breakdown. I would be able to get some of those numbers, but again, we didn't have the full month report, so now that we're at the end of January, I could provide that if you'd like.
Okay. And so the numbers for the total participants, is that correct?
That was, again, for 3 Wednesdays, so not the full month at the time of submitting this report.
Okay. Yeah. And to me, this is one of those things that got swept up with the rec center fees. So, how the community building was scheduled to be shut down, how like mud volleyball sort of went away, and then this senior swim thing, something that had been around since 2013. And I reached out to people in the community, and they were telling me there used to be a warmed indoor pool in the old Ortho Kansas building, the one that was at 6th and Main. And that was available to the public, and many people who were senior citizens used those. And that was closed within the last 10 years, and a lot of people moved over to this service that we had. And then in 2025, we had an average of 60 people using this every month. And now it's gone down to 30.
Yeah.
So it's a reduction in half. And when we had the rec center discussion back in December, I thought the best comment was actually from Commissioner Sellers to ask about what that looked like in surrounding areas. And so the other communities in the KC area for senior citizens, like Olathe does not provide free senior swimming, but the YMCAs do. And so there are options in the KC area for seniors to be able to access this swimming for free, something that we now do not have. And so I just wanted to read off some of the emails I've got from people specifically about this. There's a lady in the Barker neighborhood. She said, seniors need the pool exercise, which helps with mobility issues as we age. Though I've been doing some exercise, I am feeling the stiffness rearing up from my body from not swimming. Poverty is not fun. She's somebody who doesn't have enough financial, she makes just over the limit. And so the question becomes, does she spend money on food and gas, or does she spend money on this, on swimming? Another lady said, here's a program that seniors have quite literally benefited from, and that is swimming, exercising in warm water, which is good for joint pain. Moving through water is perfect resistance needed for aching bones and joints than just regular exercise, which is almost completely impossible to perform. When you rely on something like this, then it's taken like it has been, it can be detrimental to the people who rely on this to stay mobile. Then you add in a budget, and there has no room to budge. You have to decide if you can eat, or is more mobility more important? And in the price of prescription meds, and you've got no room, add in the price of prescription meds, and you have no room to pay for anything extra. Another lady said the scholarship application, the cost of that at half price would require $180. And again, this lady is on a fixed income. And for people in Social Security over the last 10 years, 7 of those 10 years, there's only been a 3% or less bump. There's only been 3 years in the last 10, which has gone beyond that. And we all know with local taxes and utilities, that is much higher than what fixed income Social Security can support. So she said paying $7 a week or $28 a month would literally be taking away my ability to buy gas for my car or deducting it from an already strained grocery budget. Usually by the 3rd week of the month, I remain at just enough cash to keep my checking account from closing until I receive my next Social Security payment. So yeah, I guess the question is, after the rec center discussion in December, I did a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking the next day, and I was so focused on coming up with a financial solution that I missed the forest from the trees. That we are going at the rec centers from 13,000 people down to 3. It's a 75% reduction in the amount of people who have access to it. 1/10 of the people in town don't have access to it. This result right here, where we're taking away swimming from half of the seniors in town, seniors who may have paid for the rec centers and Parks and Rec throughout their life living in Lawrence. This is exactly the type of, this is exactly why people love Lawrence, because they have amenities such as this, and we're taking it away. And so I hope we can find a way tonight to be able to either restore this or within this current system to say, even though you're supposed to need SNAP or EBT, something like that, that we can say, here is a financial threshold limit, and that is so high that they still have to fill out the form, they still have to get the fob, they still have to do all of that, but that it restores the ability for the 30 seniors who no longer have access to this, who are most likely going to be going more to the hospital, having mobility issues. We can fix this. And, next week when we have the rec center debate and discussion, I think we're going to find that the numbers are great. I think Lindsay's team is doing a good job, amazing job on what that's going to look like based on early reporting. We can find a way to get 30 seniors pool access back.
We'll come back to comments. We're still in questions and then public comment, but hold that. We'll come back to that. Any other questions before we open it up to public comment? Lindsay, I had a question for you. obviously this was for the first 3 weeks. What is the process you would use to evaluate any of these sorts of programs going forward? Where do you go from here, and how do you gather input?
Are you talking about just to discontinue like a program like this?
Well, like after you make a change,
Yeah.
Not just this one, but we make changes all the time.
Correct.
This was not a direct, relation, something staff did, as you do with many fees all over the place.
Right.
You make changes. How do you evaluate how the changes affect, and then how do you react to that?
Sure, I think just as we're doing now, we look at the numbers, we look at the feedback, we look at the big picture, and we need to give it time. It's a change for everybody, so we want to give it some time to let that sink in. And we understand that this is a big change, a big impact. And again, this particular decision was made during the budget process last year when we were considering adding fees to the rec centers. So we needed to align aquatics with the same fee structure, whereas before it was offered, we offered the free day at aquatics because the rec centers were free. So now that we're charging, we just wanted to align that structure moving forward, which is more sustainable. But again, we will continue to monitor and evaluate and talk with participants and look at the numbers. And again, we need to understand what the impact is and if we could do something to change it. But again, we do still offer lower rates for seniors for the daily rate and the punch cards.
And approximately how many different fees do you have in Parks and Rec?
Oh, hundreds.
Yeah. And, okay. Well, I was very interested in knowing these numbers. I wanted to know if we were talking about 5 people or 10 people or 80 people, so appreciate having these numbers. And any other questions? We'll open up to public comment, then we'll bring it back for discussion. Thank you, Lindsay. If no other questions. City Manager's Report is a public hearing item. Does anyone like to speak on the City Manager's Report?
I just want to say that the unhoused population is waiting to speak on issues earlier, so if we could please quickly get to that, because some of them have to get to shelters, so I hope you can be mindful of that. Please, thank you.
Okay. Comments on the City Manager's Report?
Christina McKenna, 66046. I'll make it quick. The one thing about the seniors and not having the ability to pay for things, it feels like we're coming from a place of privilege. My own aunt lives in a situation where she has her house paid for because we helped her out with that. She still has to have her property taxes helped. She gets $20 a month from SNAP. She's on a fixed income and cannot do anything for herself very, very much. She has COPD, and so we pay for caretakers for her lawn and things like that. And she would also be one of those who would really benefit from something like a warm indoor pool, but she wouldn't be able to take advantage of it regardless of how low you put the cost because of how little she has. And this is just another situation where there's a lot of people in that situation. And when we're coming at it from a place of privilege, that dismisses their experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that? Okay, how about online on this matter?
Yes.
Stephen Watts.
Hi, I am taken aback by my brother who just made a presentation, and I'm all for you, my brother, with respect to assisting the unhoused population, and it is the bureaucracy that is your enemy, not old people. Why do you want to take time away from this discussion about allowing old people the opportunity to use something? It's incredible that the way they pit us against each other, my brother. Please understand that. This report, which came out of the Parks and Rec Department, clearly underscores the reality that this is all about money. And I want to point out the number that was provided, around $15,000. It's the same amount of fucking money. Excuse me, not really. That the town is paying for coffee to lead the police department administrators, the IT administrators, and the executive staff people. We can buy fucking coffee, but we can't let old people swim. It's incredible, absolutely incredible the way that we have allowed our town to be taken over by a corporate mentality, which is, if the service doesn't pay for itself, fuck it. Yeah, I'm using that kind of language tonight because you've antagonized me. Don't do that. I didn't come here for that, and you can't see shit on the video. Anyway, please, don't mistake my earnestness for emotion. This is wrong. Absolutely wrong. And if you can't understand that, that's okay by me, because see, I'm going to be dead when the shit hits the fan. You people are going to be here. It's just amazing how this town can call itself progressive, deny the people that helped build it an opportunity to swim in that fucking pool. Absolutely incredible. I have some other things to talk about for a city manager's report, but I ain't going to waste it. So my brother... Yeah. And I really believe that. I've sent so much. Anyway, let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just do a quick check. We had one, but I think it dropped off. Yeah, that's all the comments, Mayor.
Okay, now we'll bring it back for discussion on the city manager's report. Other comments? I mean, I'm interested in knowing more about the numbers and, having staff continue to look at this and, figure out the right way forward. I mean, I know you've been looking at some of these other items too that we are putting on you. And so, I'm certainly interested in this. I guess I had a question. Swimming otherwise, like if someone who is low income wanted to go to the outdoor pool, do we have a waiver program for someone who's low income, like we have on the rec fees? Can you get a scholarship? And
I believe our scholarships are available for you can get a summer pass or a monthly pass, but it wouldn't work for a day fee. But you could apply for like the pass. So again, we do a 30-day pass, we do a summer pass, and then an annual or monthly for aquatics, and it's good at the indoor or the outdoor. So it would apply for that.
And that's for anyone of any age?
Yeah, we have 2 scholarship programs split into the adult 18 and older or the wee folks 17 and under.
So do we know of any of the seniors who've been going on the free, as we led up to this, did anyone apply for free passes?
I don't know, but I can check and find out, and I can report that back as well.
Yeah. And again, of the folks who are not showing up, do we know why at this point?
I don't know, and again, that's something we can check with the aquatic staff. I do know that the number of monthly and annual passes did increase, and so I think we can see some reflection of that rather than the estimate that we gave, the attendance numbers we looked at were the daily passes to see who was coming, but we did see an increase in the annual and monthly, so I'm thinking some of them went that route and now have a full annual pass, and so I think some of that could come into play there, but I can also get feedback from staff, and I know that they've been speaking, they're close with this group, this core group that has been coming on Wednesdays, and I know that they had a lot of conversation with them, and so they probably have a good understanding of who, may have decided not to return and what that might look like.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in those conversations, interested in seeing what we can do to make this, make this work for folks. So appreciate that. Other comments? Okay.
I mean, we know the result. Half the people aren't showing up.
Well, we know, in 3 weeks, we know that, yeah.
So is the intent then to, forgive me if you've already said this, Mr. Owens, but is the intent to bring an agenda item back after we have solid numbers? Have we given any direction? Is it just, high level? I think Commissioner Courtney is interested in ultimately making a motion to bring at least the free swim back.
Yeah.
And this may not be the opportune time for that, and it'd certainly be better if we have data for it. But
I agree with that. No, 100%. I think next week when we have a larger discussion about what the spectator fees look like, I think we're all going to be pleasantly surprised on what that looks like. And if it really was about cutting down the budget gap of $450,000 and we have a plan in place to go beyond that, then we should start to think about what are the places, what are the people, what are the groups in town that we're going to restore services to for the rec centers, for things like the aquatic center.
Craig, did you have a response?
I just totally agree with what you just said. That is the right order to do it in. And some of these discussions about specific groups or programs that have been put into place sometimes decades ago, probably we haven't had that conversation in a good long time. So categorically, what are your policy? What are driving your policies? What kinds of groups would you like to most subsidize or support? Those are, she said hundreds of programs, and that's just in one department of the city. So this sense of equity and how do we take care of certain parts of our community differently, those are, as you know better than I do, more complex conversations, but they probably are better held at that kind of higher level than taking one at a time as it pops up. So
I love that, by the way. Thank you.
So we'll continue this conversation as we will for the rest of the year and into the next budget. Yes.
We're going into budget season.
That's right. Okay. Calendar items. Any calendar items before we get to open public comment?
What did we decide on March meetings? Did we figure out who was here, who wasn't here? So if we needed to, I feel like
Sherry,
we talked about this a month ago. So.
Yeah, we did talk about that we will have 3 here on the 17th still. So we're planning to have a meeting, but have it obviously very light with just those items that need to be approved, more like consent, or items that's what we discussed.
For the March 17th meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, because the 2 of you will be gone for the March 17th. So we will have 3 commissioners here.
Yeah.
Plus, we want to give Vice Mayor a chance to run a meeting.
Yeah, exactly. That's what everyone
Get going.
As a reminder, I will not be here March 10th.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
I have that down, and we're scheduling agendas accordingly.
Sure.
Okay.
I have been taking notes.
Okay, good. You have time. Other calendar items? Okay, that